Jian Wushuang, who was besieged by the two rulers, released sword essence and terrifying sword light one after another. The sword light was swift, violent, ethereal, or as fast as lightning. Relying on his swordsmanship, Jian Wushuang was not at a disadvantage when fighting against the two rulers at the same time. Instead, he had completely suppressed the two rulers. Yes, he was suppressing them. Although the ruler tyrant Axe's axe skill was overbearing and powerful, it was not exquisite enough. Previously, Jian Wushuang was able to gain the upper hand in a head-on fight with him. Now, he did not choose to fight head-on. Instead, he used his exquisite swordsmanship to fight fiercely with him. With one sword move after another, the ruler tyrant axe could only struggle to resist. As for Pupil Master, his strength was much weaker than the ruler tyrant axe's. It was even easier for him to crush Jian Wushuang with a thunderbolt-like method. Even if it was 1 against 2, the two masters were still no match for him. Too strong. 1 against 2. But he suppressed the two masters? Is this the true strength of Blood Sword Master? The surrounding principal's masters were all stunned. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed that a principal's master could be so strong. Now that they thought about what the tyrant axe ruler and pupil master had said, Jian Wushuang was only a principal's master, so his body protection ability should not be that strong. They could find an opportunity to kill him. It seemed to be a joke. Both of them had been crushed by Jian Wushuang. How could they find an opportunity to kill him? Even if Jian Wushuang's protective ability was not strong, could they touch his divine body? How? How could this be? The tyrant axe roared in disbelief. This kid's swordsmanship is so terrifying. When he fought with me 3,000 years ago, his swordsmanship had not reached such a terrifying level. Pupil Master also hissed. He did not know that during the 3,000 years, Jian Wushuang had been meditating under the sword stone. Although most of the time he was meditating to perfect the earth guard while he was meditating, his understanding of sword principle was constantly improving, and his swordsmanship was also constantly improving. In addition, when Jian Wushuang fought with him 3,000 years ago, he did not use his full strength. If he did not use his full strength, Pupil Master would not be able to resist. Heaven and earth shook. Jian Wushuang's terrifying strength shocked everyone present. The surrounding principal's masters who were watching the battle had some illusions about the strongest flight-type true treasure. But now that they saw Jian Wushuang's terrifying strength with their own eyes, even the two rulers were crushed by Jian Wushuang. This scene made the principal's masters lose interest in the Black Wings. The two rulers were suppressed by Blood Sword Master even when they joined hands. Do we have to wait for the third ruler to come in person before we have a chance to subdue Blood Sword Master? The third ruler? Everyone was moved. But at this moment, he's here. The third ruler is here. A cry of surprise suddenly sounded. Everyone immediately looked over and saw a Saiyan figure appearing in the void in front of the battlefield. It was an absolute beauty in a Saiyan robe. Her face was cold, as if she did not belong to the mortal world. A faint divine power aura spread from her body. Although the divine power aura was very weak, everyone present was shocked when they sensed it. Even Jian Wushuang, the ruler tyrant axe, and the pupil master, who were fighting fiercely on the battlefield, were shocked when they sensed the divine power aura. It was because the divine power aura was much stronger than the divine power aura of an ordinary senior ruler. There was no doubt that the person who came was a superior ruler. Master Qing. It's Master Qing from the heavenly lake astral world. It's her. Many principals' masters around started to tremble. Master Qing was different from the other rulers in this astral region. She had been around for a long time and had been famous for a long time. She was a ruler who had just risen, and it had only been 1,000,000 years since then. And it had only taken her a few 100,000 years to become one of the top rulers. Without a doubt, she was a true genius. The Heaven Lake astral world was the same as the divine beginning realm. It was only a third-grade astral world that had yet to reach its peak. However, because of Master Qing's existence, the countless forces in this astral world did not dare to provoke her. After all, she was a genuine superior ruler. In this star area, aside from Master Qing, There were no more than 5 known superior rulers who were still in the star area. Such a ruler was certainly awe-inspiring. Haha, Master Qing is actually here. I don't have to worry that no one can subdue you. Pupil Master stared at Jian Wushuang and sneered. Humph, even if Master Qing can subdue me, I'll only give him the black wings. As for Pupil Master and Ruler Tyrant X, I'm afraid you two should stop thinking about it. Jian Wushuang sneered. Ruler Tyrant X and Pupil Master's eyes immediately darkened. Of course, they longed for the black wings. However, what Jian Wushuang said was the truth. Since Master Qing was here, Jian Wushuang would only give her the black wings even if she could subdue him with the strength of a superior ruler. He would never give them the black wings. If Master Qing got the black wings, they would not even have the desire to fight for it. Snatching a supreme treasure from a superior ruler? That would be a joke. You are the Blood Sword Master. Master Qing stood at the edge of the battlefield and did not immediately enter the battlefield. Instead, she stared at Jian Wushuang coldly. It's me. Jian Wushuang, Ruler Tyrant X, and the other two stopped. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, Master Qing is here for the wings, right? Yes. Master Qing nodded. The strongest flight-type supreme treasure is not something you can have. Hand over the wings and I promise to give you an attack-type supreme treasure, a pinnacle suppression type, a pinnacle soul defense type, and a pinnacle flight-type supreme treasure as compensation. Oh! Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and nodded inwardly. It had to be said that Master Qing was quite kind. She did not directly snatch it from the beginning, but was willing to hand over true treasures in exchange. Although the price she was willing to pay for the true treasure was not as high as that of the strongest flight-type true treasure, it was still pretty good. Unfortunately, it was not easy to get a chance to get a supreme flight-type true treasure. Naturally, Jian Wushuang would not let it go so easily. Master Qing, I'm sorry. This flying supreme true treasure is very useful to me, so I can't agree to it, Jian Wushuang said. You can't agree? Master Qing's expression remained unchanged. Then I'm sorry. What? Master Qing, as a superior ruler, is going to attack me. A principal's master, without any regard for my reputation. Jian Wushuang laughed. Yes, you are a principal's master. But in terms of combat strength, you can suppress both the Ruler Tyrant X and the Pupil Master. I'm not far from a superior ruler. How can I attack you without respect? Master Qing's voice was cold. But I'm a superior ruler, so I won't bully you. How about this? You take 3 of my strikes, and if you aren't seriously injured by me after 3 strikes, I'll turn around and leave. Oh! Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows, but he found it funny in his heart. Master Qing seemed to be merciful. As long as he was not seriously injured by the 3 strikes, she would leave. But in fact, all the smart people knew that Master Qing would try her best to unleash her strongest battle strength as a superior ruler. If Jian Wushuang could not withstand the 3 strikes and was killed or seriously injured, Master Qing would continue to attack. However, if Jian Wushuang could withstand the 3 strikes and was not seriously injured, even the strongest attack could not seriously injure Jian Wushuang. It meant that Master Qing could not kill Jian Wushuang at all, so she had to leave. In other words, Master Qing did not say these words to show mercy, but to make it sound nice. If she was really worried about her status as a superior ruler, she should say that if Jian Wushuang did not die in the 3 strikes, she would immediately turn around and leave. Just that she did not injure him severely. If she could injure him severely, it meant that she had the ability to kill Jian Wushuang. If she could not injure him severely, she could do nothing to Jian Wushuang. Master Qing, what you said is really nice. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, but he still nodded and said, Okay, let me see how strong a superior ruler is. Jian Wushuang was also looking forward to it. He had come into contact with a superior ruler before, and that was the Heaven Rock ruler of the North Sea Palace. The Heaven Rock ruler had also attacked him, but the Heaven Rock ruler had been holding back and had not used all of his strength. Moreover, Jian Wushuang's strength was still relatively weak at that time, so he could not fully feel the gap between him and the Heaven Rock ruler. But now it was different. Master Qing, show me your spear skills. Jian Wushuang held the netherworld divine sword with one hand, and his divine power surged crazily. He would not underestimate a superior master. He had already exerted the power of the universe principles to the maximum. Master Qing's eyes were cold. With a flip of her hand, a silver spear appeared in her hand. The silver spear was at least 2 meters long. The moment it appeared in Master Qing's hand, a cold chill instantly swept out. The surrounding void immediately froze under the attack of the chill. The entire world became extremely cold. What a cold spear! Jian Wushuang glanced at the silver spear in Master Qing's hand. There was no doubt that the silver spear in Master Qing's hand was a supreme true treasure magic weapon. In terms of power, it was definitely not weaker than his netherworld divine sword. Blood Sword Master, watch carefully. This is the first spear. As Master Qing's voice fell, the silver spear in his hand stabbed forward. Swish! The silver light flashed and the cold spear streaked across the void. Wherever it passed, the space instantly froze into ice. The world immediately became dark and gloomy. In this dark world, there was only this bright silver light, which was extremely dazzling and emitted a cold luster. So fast! Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. The spear move was too fast. It almost instantly pierced through the void and appeared in front of him. He did not even have time to carefully feel the power of this spear move. Without much time to think, Jian Wushuang directly struck out with his sword. Starfire Burning Sun! Jian Wushuang's divine power surged, and he immediately used the heaven-cleaving skill. His strength reached its peak at this moment. The violent sword light instantly slashed out, bringing with it a terrifying power as it collided head-on with the silver light. Clang! With a loud sound, Jian Wushuang's body suddenly trembled, and he staggered back a few steps. Each step was heavy and powerful, trampling on the void. However, there was no doubt that Jian Wushuang had received the spear. Moreover, he had blocked the attack with his sword skill. Although he was completely suppressed, he still managed to block the attack without too much power hitting his body. That's right. To be able to block my spear with the power of your sword skill, it proves that your strength is the best among the advanced rulers. However, your strength is still not enough to defeat me, Master Qing said coldly. Master Qing, let's cut the crap. I've taken your first spear. Now, let me see your second spear, Jian Wushuang said excitedly. Master Qing's first spear had already amazed Jian Wushuang. He was indeed a superior ruler. It was obvious that Master Qing had just casually used her spear and did not use much strength. However, he still easily defeated his Starfire Burning Sun and completely suppressed it. As for the second spear that Master Qing was about to use, it was definitely stronger. Watch carefully for the second spear. A trace of coldness flashed through Master Qing's eyes. Previously, he had only casually stabbed forward with the first spear. However, during the process of the second spear, a large amount of ice condensed in front of her. A suffocating chill spread out. Master Qing's silver spear, as well as her hand holding the spear, were covered in frost. Along with a gust of cold air, Master Qing spat out. Whoosh! The long spear was another explosive thrust. With this thrust, the void in a radius of 10,000 kilometers was completely frozen into a world of ice and snow. The silver spear also turned into a huge icicle, carrying a terrifying penetrating power as it stabbed toward Jian Wushuang. The power of this spear was definitely several times stronger than the first one. Jian Wushuang's eyes shone with a fierce light. He held the netherworld divine sword with both hands at the same time. Whoosh! The sword slashed out, and the void turned into chaos. There was no sound of explosion or air explosion. Jian Wushuang's sword did not seem to have a terrifying power. However, when the divine sword fell, a cold sword light mercilessly cut through the space, mercilessly tearing through everything in front of it, tearing through the ice and snow, and mercilessly slashing toward the huge icicle. Fallen Yellow Spring. The strongest sword attack created by Jian Wushuang. If the Starfire Burning Sun was extremely violent and had a sudden burst of astonishing power, then the Fallen Yellow Spring was cold and ruthless, This cold and ruthless sword attack seemed to be able to cut through everything it encountered. No one, no matter what, could withstand its sharp edge. There was also a trace of the aura of the universe's principles in this sword. It was precisely because of the aura of the universe's principles that the power of this sword was so terrifying. Back in the divine beginning realm, Jian Wushuang had fought with Di Shisan in the sword principle battle. In the end, Jian Wushuang had used this sword to defeat Di Shisan's swordsmanship system and obtain victory. However, it had been more than 8,000 years since that battle. During those 8,000 years, Jian Wushuang had first studied under the Heaven Suppression Tablet for 5,000 years, and then he studied under the Sword Stone for 3,000 years. He had made great progress in his swordsmanship, and the aura of the universe principles he had grasped had become stronger. Naturally, the power of this sword move was far from what he could compare with before. This sword move. Pupil Master, who was watching the battle, saw Jian Wushuang's sword move and his expression changed drastically. He clearly remembered that 3,000 years ago, Jian Wushuang had used this sword move to beat him until he vomited blood. After all, he had the protection of the Supreme Treasure Armor, yet he still vomited blood. One could imagine how powerful that sword move was. Now that Jian Wushuang was using it again, the power of his swordsmanship was even stronger than before. It had to be said that the power of Jian Wushuang's sword was indeed earth-shaking. At least, the Tyrant Axe thought that he could not perform an attack of this level. However, what Jian Wushuang was facing was, after all, a genuine superior ruler. A superior ruler's battle strength was far stronger than a superior ruler's. The cold and terrifying icicle pierced toward Jian Wushuang, and his cold and ruthless sword light came into direct contact with it. Swish! Swish! The sound of divine power squeezing against the impact rang out, and the final result was still Jian Wushuang's sword light being crushed. The cold and ruthless sword light also lasted for a while, but it completely dissipated. The icicle still carried extraordinary power and directly hit Jian Wushuang's divine body. Jian Wushuang's body shook violently, and he was knocked back. After a long while, he finally managed to stand firm in the void. After he stood firm, Jian Wushuang raised his head and looked at Master Qing again. He could not help but exclaim, "No wonder you're a superior ruler. You're amazing." Jian Wushuang was indeed amazed. Her most terrifying and confident sword attack was the one that fell into the Yellow Springs. After all, it was a strike with the aura of a universe principles. It was ridiculously powerful, but unfortunately, a superior ruler was much more powerful than him in terms of divine power alone. As for Master Qing's strike just now, it was also extremely powerful, so he was still crushed. However, although he was crushed, the remaining power of the strike did not cause much damage to him. It was normal for Jian Wushuang to have a supreme true treasure armor to protect his body. At the same time, he had cultivated the supreme eternal celestial body, which was as tough as a supreme treasure. If the power of the spear had not been offset by his falling stick swordsmanship, he might have been injured. If it had hit his divine body, it might have caused him some damage. However, with the help of the swordsmanship, the damage caused by the spear was negligible. Jian Wushuang did not care at all. Although my spear was blocked by his swordsmanship and weakened by more than half of its power, more than 30% of its power still hit his divine body directly. How could he be completely fine under the impact of 30% of its power? The divine power aura on his body did not weaken at all? Master Qing finally frowned. The two rulers watching the battle, including the principal's masters, were also shocked by this scene. How is this possible? This Bloodsword Master was clearly struck by Master Qing's spear technique, but why isn't he injured? Although the power of that spear technique was more than half negated by Bloodsword Master's sword arts, it still has more than 30% of its power left. Under normal circumstances, even an ordinary high-level ruler would be injured or severely injured after receiving more than 30% of a top-tier ruler's power. How could this Bloodsword Master, a principal's master, act as though nothing had happened? Didn't they say that, as a principal's master, his divine body is not that strong? But now, it seems that his divine body is much stronger than that of an ordinary ruler. An uproar resounded throughout the world. Indeed, before this, almost everyone thought that although Jian Wushuang's offensive power was comparable to that of an advanced ruler, and he was even the best among advanced rulers, his defensive ability should not be that strong. It was also because of this that the ruler Tyrant Axe and Pupil Master felt that there was a glimmer of hope that they could kill Jian Wushuang. But now, the scene in front of them showed that the Blood Sword Master's protective ability was not weak at all. The head-on attack of a superior ruler contained more than 30% of its power. He only relied on his divine body to withstand it, but he was completely fine. Is this kid pretending? He's already heavily injured, but he's just pretending to be fine. A principal's master could not help but say. However, as soon as he finished his words, many people looked at him as if they were looking at a fool. It was true that one could disguise his appearance and behavior, but the divine power aura on his body could not be disguised. If a person was seriously injured, the divine power aura on his body would be greatly weakened. But the divine power aura on Jian Wushuang's body did not seem to be weakened at all. Blood Sword Master, it seems that I have underestimated you. As a principal's master, not only can your offensive power rival that of an advanced ruler, but your protective ability is also much stronger than that of an ordinary ruler. I'm afraid that no one below the level of a superior ruler can defeat you with this protective ability alone, Master Qing said in a deep voice. Her words immediately attracted the agreement of the surrounding experts. Indeed, when Jian Wushuang had cultivated the first level of the Supreme Eternal Divine Body, he was already destined to be able to do whatever he wanted among senior rulers. However, he could not ignore a superior ruler. That was why Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and the others wanted to get him a Supreme True Treasure Armor. If he had the Supreme True Treasure Armor and Jian Wushuang's powerful divine body, he would have no fear even if he encountered a superior ruler. Blood Sword Master, I'm going to use my third spear. Master Qing gripped the silver spear in her hand, and her eyes became sharp. I'll keep my word. If I can't severely injure you with this spear, I'll turn around and leave immediately. Come on. Jian Wushuang clenched the netherworld divine sword in his hand, his eyes full of expectation. The two strikes that Master Qing had performed were ridiculously powerful. Jian Wushuang had already performed his strongest swordsmanship, but he was still crushed. Now, how powerful was the third strike that Master Qing was about to perform? The many principals masters who were watching the battle were all eagerly waiting. They also wanted to personally witness Master Qing's strongest spear attack. Divine punishment, Master Qing said coldly. Wang. The vast amount of pure divine power that only a peak ruler possessed instantly swept out. The moment this pure divine power swept out, the divine power aura that Master Qing emitted was slightly weaker than before. Although it did not weaken much, it was weakened. Clearly, it was not easy for Master Qing to unleash the strongest spear attack. The world fell silent. Under everyone's gaze, Master Qing slowly extended the silver-colored spear in her hand. This silver-colored spear turned into a silver-colored bolt of lightning. Under the gathering of that majestic divine power, it suddenly erupted. Rumble! The silver spear, which was originally of normal size, was enlarged at a terrifying speed. In the blink of an eye, it extended to a length of 30,000 feet. Its size was so huge that it was like a pillar supporting the sky. The 30,000-foot-long silver spear. It easily pierced through the space and came straight for Jian Wushuang. For a moment, the entire world was filled with an ear-piercing sound of an explosion. Jian Wushuang stood in the void in front of the long spear. He saw the long spear magnify and then stab at him. At this moment, he felt as if he was caught in a violent storm. His silver robe, his hair was fluttering in the wind. What a terrifying power! Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and was extremely surprised. He had just received the first and second strikes from Master Qing. Although the power of the two strikes was far more powerful than his own, at least Jian Wushuang could cope with it. However, the third strike gave him a feeling that he could not fight back at all. This strike could completely crush everything. Although he had created an extraordinary sword art, no matter how much strength he used, he would be completely defeated by this strike. Jian Wushuang immediately understood that he could not use his sword art to fight this strike head-on. However, just because he could not fight it head-on did not mean that Jian Wushuang could not resist it. Such a powerful attack. Let me test the results of my 3,000 years of work. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands tightly, his eyes shining brightly. Earth Guard. Jian Wushuang brandished his sword. The Netherworld Divine Sword seemed to be casually slashed out, but it contained a special mystery. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A large amount of sword essence, accompanied by a large amount of earthy yellow energy, rose in an instant. Earth protection was based on the principles of the earth. The earth was heavy and sentimental, with Jian Wushuang's attainments in sword principle. In an instant, a layer of earthy yellow sword domain was formed. Sword domain, earth sword domain. After the first layer of earth sword domain appeared, a second and third layer of earth sword domain immediately condensed. In the blink of an eye, 12 earth sword domains were formed in front of Jian Wushuang. The earth sword domain is the product of my perfect combination of the earth principles and the origin of the sword principle universe. It has a strong body protection ability. The earth sword domain alone should be able to easily withstand the full strength attack of a primary ruler. Now, I have condensed 12 earth sword domains at the same time. In addition, I have integrated the endless essence into this move. I want to see if I can withstand this spear. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a brilliant light. Boom! The 30,000-meter-long silver spear, which contained the power to destroy heaven and earth, finally stabbed at Jian Wushuang. It immediately stabbed at the earthy yellow sword domain in front of Jian Wushuang. Bang! 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 In just an instant, the 12 earth sword domains collapsed into 7, and more than half of them collapsed. Then it was followed by another bang. Bang! With 2 consecutive sounds, the 8th and 9th Great Earth Sword domains collapsed. However, starting from the 10th Great Earth Sword domain, the momentum of the long spear's attack clearly slowed down. Bang! The 10th Great Earth Sword domain was still defeated. The 11th Great Earth Sword domain lasted for a full moment before it was also defeated. When it reached the 12th and final Great Earth Sword domain, the long spear still attacked the 12th Great Earth Sword domain for a period of time, but in the end it was still unable to completely defeat the 12th Great Earth Sword domain. The giant spear stopped in the void, and its power was completely exhausted. Buzz! The 30,000-meter-long silver spear dissipated and returned to its original appearance in Master Qing's hand. However, at this moment, Master Qing's face was filled with shock and disbelief. Not only her, but the other 2 rulers who were watching the battle, including the ruler tyrant axe and the pupil ruler, as well as the numerous principles masters, were completely dumbfounded. Although Jian Wushuang had blocked the previous 2 strikes, everyone could see that he had not been able to block them easily. Now, the 3rd strike was Master Qing's strongest strike. She had paid a certain price in order to use this strike. Logically speaking, this strike should have been enough to completely crush Jian Wushuang. At the very least, it should have been enough to injure Jian Wushuang to a certain extent. However, the result surprised everyone. Jian Wushuang had blocked the most powerful spear strike without any damage. Such a terrifying spear strike could not really hit his divine body. The strange earthy yellow power in front of Jian Wushuang had completely blocked the power of the spear strike. He did not even retreat. How is this possible? Pupil Master could not help but roar. What is that power? Ruler Tyrant Axe stared at Jian Wushuang. At this moment, great waves also rose in Master Qing's heart. She stared at Jian Wushuang and recalled the scene just now. Is that power a supreme treasure? No, that feeling is not a true treasure, but swordsmanship? Yes, it's swordsmanship. Master Qing's eyes narrowed. The protective swordsmanship of a principal's master completely blocked my most powerful divine punishment spear. Master Qing could hardly believe it was true, but the truth was right in front of her. Master Qing, thank you, Jian Wushuang said with a smile on his face and a deep breath in his heart. I spent most of the 3,000 years cultivating under the sword stone to perfect the Earth Guard. Finally, I was able to condense 12 Earth Sword domains at the same time, each stronger than the last. It turns out that I didn't waste these 3,000 years. Jian Wushuang was very excited. 3,000 years ago, when he first came to the Red Cloud world, the Earth Guard technique he created was still very young. Could only form one great Earth sword domain. And the Earth at that time was still very pure. But in these 3,000 years, he had studied and studied under the Sword Stone. By now, he could form a total of 12 great Earth sword domains. Most importantly, the 12 levels of the Earth sword domain contained an endless essence, which combined perfectly to make the 12 levels of the Earth sword domain stronger and more resilient. After reaching this stage, although Jian Wushuang knew that the protective ability of his sword should be extremely strong, at the very least, he should be able to completely block an attack at the advanced ruler level. As for an attack at the superior ruler level, whether it could be blocked or not, he was not confident. Now that he was fighting with a superior ruler, and Master Qing had used her strongest spear, she was unable to break through all 12 levels of the Earth Sword domain. This made Jian Wushuang almost overjoyed. Master Qing's strongest spear was unable to break through all 12 levels of the Earth Sword domain, which meant that the defensive ability of the Earth Guard was much stronger than she had imagined. His 3,000 years of comprehension had not been in vain. Unlike Jian Wushuang's excitement, the people around him had long been shocked. Blood Sword Master. Master Qing looked at Jian Wushuang again, and her expression slowly disappeared, returning to her usual cold expression. You are a principal's master, so your battle strength is not weaker than an advanced ruler. I didn't expect your defensive ability to be even more terrifying. Not only do you have an extremely powerful divine body, which can withstand 30% of my attack head-on without being damaged, but you also know such a terrifying defensive sword technique. With this defensive sword technique, I'm afraid that even among the top rulers, only a handful of them have the ability to kill you. At the very least, among the top rulers in this star area, no one should have this kind of power. Master Qing had spoken based on her own feelings. At least that was what she thought. However, as soon as her words left her mouth, the surrounding void immediately erupted into an intense commotion. Heavens! Master Qing actually said that no one in this star field can kill the Blood Sword Master? That's normal. Didn't you see how Master Qing unleashed her strongest spear, only to be completely blocked by the protective sword art of the Blood Sword Master? With that body-protecting sword art and his extremely powerful divine body, none of the top rulers in this star field would be able to do anything to him if they didn't work together. This Blood Sword Master is just a mere principal's master. It's one thing for him to be as powerful as a senior ruler, but I didn't expect his life-saving ability to be so incredible. He's really a monster. We wanted to kill such a monster to fight for his wings? It's just a pipe dream. Exclamations sounded one after another. Master Qing spoke again. Blood Sword Master. Although you're just a principal's master, you have such powerful strength and life-saving means. It's only right that the Supreme Flight-type true treasure fell into your hands. You're qualified to possess such a true treasure. After saying that, Master Qing looked at Jian Wushuang seriously, then turned around, apparently intending to leave. However, before she left, she glanced at Ruler Tyrant Axe, who was beside her. Ruler Tyrant Axe, your suppression-type true treasure has been suppressing this place. Don't tell me you want to keep me here as well. Ruler Tyrant Axe's face changed. Previously, he had used his suppression-type true treasure to suppress the void just to prevent Jian Wushuang from escaping. He had no intention of stopping Master Qing. But now, Master Qing was going to leave because of his suppression-type true treasure. Ruler Tyrant Axe gritted his teeth and looked at Master Qing, then at Jian Wushuang. He sighed in his heart. I thought Blood Sword Master was only a principal's master. Although he's strong, his ability to protect his body shouldn't be that strong. As long as a few more rulers join hands, I'm sure I can kill him. I didn't expect Blood Sword Master's ability to protect his body to be so strong that even Master Qing couldn't do anything to him. I'm just an advanced ruler. Tyrant Axe shook his head. He did not persist any longer. With a wave of his hand, he withdrew the suppression formation in the surrounding void. After the suppression formation was withdrawn, Master Qing left immediately. Master Qing has already left. Why? Do you two intend to stay and continue to be trampled by me? Jian Wushuang looked at Tyrant Axe and Pupil Master with interest. The ruler tyrant Axe and pupil master looked at each other in dismay. Master Bloodsword, you're good, the ruler tyrant Axe said and then turned to leave. Pupil master's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He had a grudge with Jian Wushuang. If he had the chance, he would not hesitate to deal with Jian Wushuang. However, now that Master Qing and the ruler tyrant Axe had left, he alone, he would be completely crushed by Jian Wushuang. Naturally, he did not dare to stay any longer. Soon, the three rulers left one after another. Even the rulers left. The principal's masters around them did not have the slightest intention of fighting over it. Soon they dispersed and left. The fight for the strongest flight-type true treasure had finally come to an end. Jian Wushuang was slowly moving forward in the void of the third continent in the Red Cloud world. He was holding two messaging tokens in his hands. One belonged to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and the other belonged to the Temporal Temple Master. My young friend, I admire you. You were able to defeat the ruler tyrant Axe and pupil master by yourself in the realm of Principal's Master. You were even able to take 3 strikes from Master Qing head-on without any damage. Moreover, Master Qing paid a certain price to use his most powerful strike, but he was unable to break your protective sword skill. This really makes us rulers feel ashamed, the Temporal Temple Master exclaimed. Temporal Temple Master knew that Jian Wushuang had obtained the lightest flight-type supreme treasure, so he had rushed here as fast as he could. However, on the way, he received news that Jian Wushuang's crisis had been resolved, and he knew the process of the previous battle. Even Temporal Temple Master, who had a certain understanding of Jian Wushuang, could not help but exclaim in admiration. Indeed, Master Qing is a genuine superior ruler. Her strongest spear attack could not even break your protective swordsmanship. Heavenly Sword Marquis, when did your protective swordsmanship become so powerful? Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master could not help asking. To tell you the truth, during the past 3,000 years, I have not been searching for supreme treasures on the third continent. Instead, I have been comprehending the swordsmanship under the Sword Stone. Among the 4 swordsmanship of the Sword Stone, there happens to be an extremely profound protective swordsmanship. I have been comprehending it for a full 3,000 years before I was able to perfect the protective swordsmanship that I created to this extent, Jian Wushuang said. Is that so? No wonder I sent you a message earlier. You said you were meditating, so you were meditating on such swordsmanship. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and the Temporal Temple Master also understood. By the way, my young friend, the most powerful flight-type supreme treasure is now in your hands. You should quickly refine it and take a look, the Temporal Temple Master said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded and temporarily cut off the communication with them. Then he found a quiet place and took out the black wings. The pitch-black wings were extremely cold to the touch. The wings were covered with complicated and mysterious secret patterns, which even Jian Wushuang could not see through. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and then began to try to refine the black wings. When he began to refine them, he was immediately met with a resistance. As expected, Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and was not surprised. It was not easy to refine a supreme treasure, even an ordinary supreme treasure. If he wanted to refine this supreme treasure, he had to meet the requirements of this supreme treasure. And the requirements for refining the strongest universe supreme treasure would be even higher. For example, Jian Wushuang's Netherworld Divine Sword was the strongest universe supreme treasure, so the requirements were extremely harsh. Fortunately, when Jian Wushuang obtained the Netherworld Divine Sword, he had already stepped into the Sword Universe origin. At that time, he had already met the requirements for refining the Netherworld Divine Sword, so he could easily refine it. However, as the strongest flight-type supreme treasure, the black wings were more valuable than the Netherworld Divine Sword, so the requirements for refining it were naturally higher. However, Jian Wushuang's current strength was far from what he could compare with before. The requirements for refining the black wings seemed to be related to the universe principles. As Jian Wushuang studied it, he soon learned the threshold for refining the black wings, which he had just met. Soon, the black wings were successfully refined by him. As soon as he finished refining them, he immediately got the information about the black wings. It was the most powerful flight-type supreme treasure, The Celestial Light Wings. Celestial Light Wings? That's a good name, Jian Wushuang muttered. Like ordinary flying and protective armor treasures, the Celestial Light Wings had 3 different levels of power. In addition, it contained 2 secret skills. The first was the 3 levels of power. Each level was higher than the other, but the conditions to activate it were more and more difficult. The first level of power needed to be able to clearly sense the existence of the universe principles before it could be activated. The second level of power required one to truly comprehend a trace of the universe principles before it could be activated. The third level of power required one to have a certain level of comprehension of the universe principles before it could be activated. The universe principles? The conditions for activating the Celestial Light Wings are actually related to the universe principles. The higher one's comprehension of the universe principles, the stronger the power that can be activated. Jian Wushuang was secretly surprised, but he immediately understood. The most powerful universe supreme treasure, and it was a special supreme treasure such as the flight type, was indeed qualified to involve the universe origin. Jian Wushuang now met the requirements for activating the first level of the 3 levels of power of the Celestial Light Wings. The first level of power only needed to be able to clearly sense the existence of the universe principles. He had already achieved this step when the universe principles personally descended on him. Moreover, he had already grasped a trace of the aura of the universe principles. Now, he was not only satisfied, but he had even exceeded the requirement to activate the first level of power. However, the second level of power of the Celestial Light Wings required him to truly comprehend a trace of the universe principles, which was relatively far away for Jian Wushuang. Let's test the first level of power first. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a sharp light. The black wings in his hand instantly merged with the surface of his body and then spread out behind him. The huge black wings emitted a special mysterious wave. With a thought from Jian Wushuang, the first level of power was instantly activated. Puff! Puff! The wings were suddenly spread. Swish! A stream of light instantly rushed out. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in the void 100,000 miles away. This speed! Jian Wushuang stopped in the void with a hint of excitement in his eyes. Too fast! This is too fast! Jian Wushuang exclaimed. It was too fast. In the blink of an eye, he had traveled 100,000 miles. After all, this was in the Red Cloud world, where the heaven and earth were greatly restricted. It was not as unbridled as in the divine beginning realm. In the blink of an eye, he had traveled 100,000 miles at such a terrifying speed that even a superior ruler could only be so fast. My speed was relatively fast before, and I was definitely not inferior to an ordinary ruler. However, compared to the speed at which I'm using the Celestial Light Wings, it's nothing. It's too fast. Even a superior ruler's full speed might not be able to compare to mine. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists. He did not know how fast a superior ruler was, but he could make a basic judgment. The previous pupil master was too fast. When he was facing Jian Wushuang, he could not escape with his life-saving secret skill. However, when pupil master used his life-saving secret skill, his speed was much slower than Jian Wushuang's. From this, he could roughly guess. He knew that with the most powerful flight type true treasure, his speed would be greatly improved. However, he did not expect that his speed would be improved so much. He could have it all at once, and it was even faster than the speed of an ordinary top-tier ruler. Moreover, this was only the first level of the power of the Celestial Light Wings. If he had the chance to comprehend a trace of the universe principles and activate the second level of the power of the Celestial Light Wings in the future, his speed would be even faster. Would it not be even faster? The second level of power. Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with anticipation. The threshold of the second level of power of the Celestial Light Wings was to comprehend a trace of the universe principles. Under normal circumstances, only supreme experts were qualified to comprehend the universe principles. However, this was only under normal circumstances. Jian Wushuang was well aware that there were many things in this world and this vast universe that could not be inferred with common sense, such as those geniuses who could not be inferred with common sense. Those geniuses were terrifyingly talented. They could comprehend a trace of the universe principles at the ruler level, or even better, they could grasp a trace of the universe principles at the principles master level. It was not impossible. Although Jian Wushuang was not blindly confident that he could compete with the incredible geniuses in the universe, it was still a hope. This is only the basic power of celestial light wings. It contains 2 secret skills, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. The celestial light wings contain 2 secret skills, namely, the Mystic Light Phantom and the Mystic Light Realm. The Mystic Light Phantom was a movement skill secret skill that was performed with the help of the celestial light wings. As for the Mystic Light Realm, like its name, it was naturally a realm performed by the celestial light wings. These 2 secret skills were performed together with the celestial light wings, so their power was naturally extraordinary. However, Jian Wushuang also needed to comprehend these 2 secret skills before he could use them. A movement skill and a realm-type skill. I hope they can surprise me. Jian Wushuang smiled and directly sat down cross-legged and began to carefully comprehend these 2 secret skills. In a flash, 10 years passed. In the vast and rolling red clouds in the void, whoosh, 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 numerous phantom-like streamers flickered and changed in the void one after another. Every time they flickered, they would appear in the void hundreds of feet away, and there was almost no interval between the flashes. Countless phantom-like streamers flickered. After a long time, all the phantom-like streamers disappeared. Jian Wushuang's figure gradually took shape in the center of the void. Incredible. This movement skill is incredible. It's better to describe it as close-range teleportation than movement skill. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining with a bright light. In the past 10 years of meditation, he had completely mastered the 2 secret skills, the Mystic Light Phantom and the Mystic Light Realm. What he had just displayed was the Mystic Light Phantom. It seemed to be a movement technique, but in reality, every flash of the Mystic Light Phantom had teleported from one part of the void to another. It was just like the temporal teleportation in the temporal divine art created by the temporal temple master. The difference was that temporal teleportation was a secret technique for escaping. It could send messages from a distance based on the spatial coordinates left behind. Although this secret skill had a strong life-saving ability, it was only useful for ordinary principles masters. After all, this secret skill would be restricted by temporal imprisonment. Once someone was able to use temporal imprisonment, it would be impossible for them to use temporal teleportation. With Jian Wushuang's current strength, those who could threaten him and allow him to escape were at least rulers. As a ruler, even if he was not good at temporal rules, he must have treasures in the temporal field and could easily use the temporal imprisonment. Therefore, the temporal imprisonment was no longer useful to Jian Wushuang. However, the close-range teleportation used in the Mystic Light Phantom movement was not affected by the temporal imprisonment. Even if it was only a short-range temporal imprisonment, it could only move a few thousand feet at a time, at most a few dozen miles. However, the Mystic Light Phantom could be used continuously. Imagine if Jian Wushuang used the secret skill in a close-range fight with a ruler. He could move around the ruler and change his position. The ruler basically could not capture his exact location. From the beginning, he could rely on this movement skill to stand invincible. This movement technique is indeed worthy of being used in conjunction with the most powerful flying treasure, the celestial light wings. It's really amazing. Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with joy. As for the Mystic Light Realm, Jian Wushuang's expression changed. The secret patterns on the celestial light wings lit up instantly. In an instant, a large amount of pitch-black flowing light burst out from the wings. The black flowing light swept out in all directions. In the blink of an eye, it covered tens of thousands of miles around, causing the area to fall into a pitch-black flowing light realm. Although it was a secret skill, the movement and appearance of the Mystic Light Realm was like the impact of a normal domain-type supreme treasure. As for its power, domain suppression, Jian Wushuang shouted in a low voice. Instantly, a terrifying suppression was generated in the huge flowing light realm. The suppression was so strong that the space began to tremble crazily. The suppression effect of this realm is so strong. Jian Wushuang, who was at the center of the realm and was in control of the realm, could clearly feel the suppression power of this realm. He immediately sensed that the suppression effect of the Mystic Light Realm was not weaker than ordinary pinnacle domain-type true treasures. and it was even stronger than ordinary pinnacle domain-type true treasures. For example, his magic sand realm was a pinnacle domain-type true treasure, but its power was slightly weaker than that of the mystic light realm at this moment. However, the mystic light realm was only a secret skill used with the help of the mystic light celestial light wings, not a domain-type true treasure. This secret skill could be perfectly combined with a domain-type supreme treasure. Magic sand realm out. With a thought from Jian Wushuang, the black quicksand that filled the sky instantly rushed out. It also spread out for tens of thousands of miles. It did not clash with the black flowing light that filled the sky. Instead, the two types were perfectly combined. The mystic light realm and the magic sand realm were perfectly combined. In an instant, boom, 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 the terrifying power of the realm burst out. The black quicksand around the flowing light rushed crazily. The suppression of the realm was much stronger than the magic sand realm and the mystic light realm. This power. Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with unconcealable joy. He had not expected that the secret skill of the mystic light celestial light wings would be so powerful. The flowing light phantom had already surprised him, and this mystic light realm made him even more ecstatic. This was a domain-type secret technique. Combined with his devil sand domain, it had formed an even more terrifying domain that was far more powerful than a pinnacle domain-type true treasure. One had to know that domain-type true treasures were very useful in battles between great beings. The strength of a domain-type true treasure could allow a cultivator to gain the absolute advantage in a fierce battle. Previously, when Jian Wushuang and the Tyrant Axe Ruler were fighting for the celestial light wings, he had used the magic sand realm to restrict the Tyrant Axe Ruler's speed. Unfortunately, the Tyrant Axe Ruler also had a pinnacle domain-type true treasure. The two domains clashed, and neither was able to restrict the other. However, if he had a stronger domain-type true treasure, it could suppress the Tyrant Axe's domain, greatly reducing his speed and strength, and making it easier for him to obtain the celestial light wings. With the help of the celestial light wings, I can perfectly combine the mystic light realm and the magic sand realm. In the future, unless I meet an expert with the strongest domain-type supreme treasure, I'll be able to take the initiative in fighting for it. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. The combination of the mystic light realm and the magic sand realm was enough to suppress a supreme domain-type supreme treasure. However, it was still weaker than a supreme domain-type supreme treasure. However, how many people in the star field had a supreme domain-type supreme treasure? After obtaining the celestial light wings, not only did it greatly increase his life-saving ability, but it also contained two secret skills, which greatly increased Jian Wushuang's strength. Next, Jian Wushuang's goal should be to obtain the most powerful protective armor. In the Red Cloud world, the emergence and competition for the celestial light wings caused a great sensation. This caused a sensation not only for the most powerful flight-type supreme treasure, but also for Jian Wushuang's strength. He thought that Jian Wushuang was powerful enough to completely suppress Pupil Master in a head-on battle and force her to flee in a sorry state. He did not expect that his true strength was even stronger. Even when the Ruler Tyrant Axe and Pupil Master joined hands, he could even suppress Ruler Tyrant Axe and Pupil Master, especially his body protection ability. Not to mention his powerful divine body, his body protection swordsmanship, which could block Master Qing's strongest spear attack, was shocking enough. However, the Red Cloud world was still a battlefield for the fight for supreme treasures. And the fight for the celestial light wings was just one of the fights. As more and more supreme treasures were born, the fight for the supreme treasures gradually died down. The experts of the Red Cloud world continued to fight for the supreme treasures. Jian Wushuang continued to explore the third continent. In the blink of an eye, another 2,000 years passed. During these 2,000 years, the number of supreme treasures born in the Red Cloud world gradually decreased, but the quality of the supreme treasures gradually improved. Jian Wushuang had also obtained a few supreme treasures, but they were only at the level of a top-tier supreme treasure. My heavenly marquis friend, I just received news that another supreme treasure has appeared on the first continent. It's an offensive divine sword. It seems to be very powerful. Temporal Temple Master sent a message. A divine sword? Jian Wushuang's expression changed, but then he shook his head. I already have the Netherworld Magic Sword, which is the most powerful magic weapon in terms of attack. It's enough for me to use my swordsmanship. Even if I get another one, it won't be of much use. Yes, Temporal Temple Master nodded. The appearance of the magic sword caused a lot of competition. In the end, it was obtained by a lucky senior ruler. With this magic sword, there are already 6 supreme treasures in the Red Cloud world. Under normal circumstances, there are about 10 supreme true treasures in the Red Cloud world. Now that 6 have been born, there are not many left. Among the 6 supreme true treasures, for our offensive weapons, one is the strongest flight-type true treasure you have obtained, and the other is the supreme true treasure armor, which was obtained by the Sky Rock ruler. Jian Wushuang's face darkened. More than 1,000 years ago, on the second continent, there was indeed a supreme true treasure armor. The birth of the supreme true treasure armor caused a huge commotion, and it also caused a frenzy of competition on the second continent. However, the second continent and the third continent where Jian Wushuang was located were far apart. Although Jian Wushuang had received the news, before he could rush over, the supreme true treasure armor had already fallen into the hands of Sky Rock ruler, who was adventuring in the second continent. Sky Rock ruler was one of the palace masters of the North Sea Palace and a superior ruler. Jian Wushuang had fought with Sky Rock ruler before, and his strength was probably above that of Master Qing. If the supreme true treasure armor fell into the hands of a superior ruler, who would be qualified to fight for it in this star field? Jian Wushuang could only feel regret in his heart. The Sky Rock ruler is a superior ruler, and he is the palace master of the North Sea Palace. He already has a supreme true treasure armor. Now that he has another one, he is of no use. He can only keep the supreme true treasure armor in the North Sea Palace and let other rulers of the North Sea Palace use it. Or he can simply put the supreme true treasure armor in the 9 Emperor Pavilion and exchange it for other true treasures. If it were any other superior ruler, we might have tried to exchange the supreme true treasure armor with another supreme true treasure. However, the one who got the supreme true treasure armor was Sky Rock ruler. After what happened last time, it's almost impossible for us to negotiate with him again, Temporal Temple Master said with a wry smile. Jian Wushuang also shrugged helplessly. He had obtained the Netherworld Divine Sword from the Sky Rock ruler, and the means he had used that time were not that glorious. It could be said that he had schemed against the Sky Rock ruler and made the Sky Rock ruler suffer a loss for nothing. Although the Sky Rock ruler was concerned about his face and was willing to accept his loss, he was afraid that he would not feel comfortable. At this time, it was obviously impossible for him to exchange for the supreme true treasure armor from the Sky Rock ruler. Unless he exchanged for it with the heaven-fleeing wings, which were more valuable than the supreme true treasure armor and could be of great use to Jian Wushuang would not be willing to do so. Although there are many supreme true treasures in the Red Cloud world every time it opens, there will only be one supreme true treasure armor every time it opens. If I miss that one, I'm afraid that there will only be other supreme true treasure armors in the Red Cloud world the next time it opens. Jian Wushuang sighed. The Red Cloud world had been opened many times in this star field, and everyone knew the underlying rules. For example, every time the Red Cloud world opened, there would be about 10 supreme true treasures. At the same time, these 10 supreme true treasures mostly focused on offensive magic weapons. As for the supreme true treasure armor, flight type, suppression type, domain type, and soul type, they rarely appeared. It all depended on luck. Moreover, every time the Red Cloud world opened, the supreme true treasures such as the armor, the flight type, the suppression type, the domain type, and the soul type would only appear once. For example, since Jian Wushuang had already obtained the celestial light wings, the Red Cloud world would never produce another supreme true treasure like the flight type. It was the same for the supreme treasure armor. We wanted to find a supreme true treasure armor to protect you when the Red Cloud world appeared, but now it seems that there is no chance. However, you have also obtained a supreme flight type supreme true treasure, which is more valuable, Temporal Temple Master said with a smile. Temporal, heaven cleaving, I actually have an idea, Jian Wushuang suddenly said. What do you think? Asked the heaven cleaving alliance master. I'm thinking that there are many experts in the Red Cloud world. If we really want to get a supreme true treasure armor, We don't necessarily have to rely on the appearance of the supreme true treasure. Maybe we can think of other ways, such as hunting a ruler with a supreme true treasure armor, Jian Wushuang said. Hunting a ruler? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master were shocked, but then they began to ponder. It was not that they had never thought of hunting a ruler who had a supreme treasure armor, but they were just thinking about it. After all, experts at the ruler level were extremely strong and most of them had strong life-saving means. Even the simplest primary ruler would find it extremely difficult to hunt. For example, Jian Wushuang, Taoist Shen God, and Temporal Temple Master had once killed their way to the Holy Star and threatened the Holy Star Master. At that time, the Holy Star Master had indeed felt a great threat and had lowered his head. However, this was mainly because Jian Wushuang and the others had not really killed him and forced him into a corner. Otherwise, if the Holy Star Master had revealed his strongest trump card, he might have been able to put up a fight. Moreover, Jian Wushuang and the others had directly attacked the lair of the Earth Saint Star Master. The Earth Saint Star Master had been too confident at the beginning and did not know Jian Wushuang's true strength. Therefore, he did not flee immediately, which gave them an opportunity. However, if an ordinary ruler was in a place like the Red Cloud world, they would remain vigilant. As long as they sensed the aura of other rulers approaching, they would be alert immediately. If 2 or 3 rulers approached at the same time, the ruler would not hesitate to retreat and would not give them a chance to kill him. It's too difficult to kill a ruler. Temporal Temple Master shook his head slightly. We have to find a perfect opportunity to kill an ordinary first-level ruler, not to mention a ruler with supreme true treasure armor. Even a first-level ruler with supreme true treasure armor has an extremely powerful protective ability. Even a top-tier senior ruler would find it difficult to kill him. Yes, a ruler with supreme true treasure armor is too difficult to kill. Even a top-tier ruler might not be able to kill a ruler with supreme true treasure armor, said the heaven-cleaving Alliance Master. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. He knew that a ruler with supreme true treasure armor was difficult to kill, but he was confident in his current strength. You too. I fought Pupil Master with supreme true treasure armor and injured him with my full strength. At that time, it was very difficult for me to kill him, but now it's not impossible, Jian Wushuang said. Oh! Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master were surprised. Heavenly Sword Marquis, how confident are you? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master asked. About 40%. If you two can come and help me, then I'm 60% confident, Jian Wushuang said. 60%? The eyes of Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master lit up. It was too difficult for them to kill a ruler with the protection of the supreme true treasure armor. They could have tried to kill Jian Wushuang even if he said they were 10% or 20% confident, but now they were 60% confident. 60% sure we can try, but I don't know who we are going to kill, Pupil Master? Temporal Temple Master said. Yes, him. Jian Wushuang already had a target. In this star field, there were not many rulers with supreme true treasure armor, and most of them were supreme rulers or stronger advanced rulers. Jian Wushuang had no intention of killing a ruler of that level. As for a primary ruler with supreme true treasure armors, Jian Wushuang only knew about Pupil Master. Pupil Master was a loner and did not have a good character. He did not care about his status and attacked some principals masters as he pleased. Over the years, he had killed many principals masters on the 3 battlefields, and he had offended many experts from different forces. Because Pupil Master was strong and had the supreme true treasure armor, few people could do anything to him. If Jian Wushuang killed such a ruler, he would not offend anyone even if he was exposed. On the contrary, many people would want him to kill Pupil Master. Pupil Master is indeed the easiest target to kill. Whether we kill him or not, no one will say anything afterward. However, Pupil Master is not weak. He is already very strong among the primary rulers, and his life-saving methods don't seem weak either, Temporal Temple Master muttered. I've experienced his strength, so I don't mind. The key is his life-saving methods. Last time, I fought with him, and although I forced him to use a life-saving method, it might not be his full trump card. Therefore, we have to be fully prepared if we want to kill him, Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice. That's right. If you want to kill a ruler, you must first not give him a chance to escape. Temporal, with your attainments in temporal, what can you do? Asked the heaven-cleaving alliance master. At most, I can guarantee that he won't be able to use any temporal means or treasures to escape and completely imprison the temporal, said the temporal temple master. That alone is not enough. Even if temporal is sealed, his life-saving skills can be used at a speed that is much faster than that of an ordinary ruler, said the heaven-cleaving alliance master. Don't worry about that. I have the celestial light wings. I don't think he can match my speed, Jian Wushuang said confidently. What a joke. With the celestial light wings, his speed could instantly surpass that of an ordinary superior ruler. He did not believe that pupil master could be faster than him. Even so, we still have to be prepared in case, such as setting up some special arrays in advance, or using a suppression-type true treasure to suppress the void, so that he cannot escape, said the heaven-cleaving alliance master. If it's a suppression-type true treasure, Shen God does have a top-tier suppression-type true treasure, and it's of a very high quality. Should we ask him to deliver it personally? Said the temporal temple master. No need. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, Have you forgotten that we have a supreme suppression-type true treasure in the divine beginning realm? And that supreme suppression-type true treasure has always been in my hands. You mean the mountain river map? Both heaven-cleaving alliance master and temporal temple master were stunned. The mountain river map was Xianyi's strongest suppression-type supreme treasure, and it had always been in Jian Wushuang's hands. However, because the level of the map was too high, Jian Wushuang had been unable to use its strongest power. However, the map had always been one of Jian Wushuang's strongest trump cards. Until the last moment, he would not use it easily. Now, as long as he could kill Pupil Master, Jian Wushuang did not mind using this trump card. The map is indeed the strongest suppression-type supreme treasure, but the threshold to use this supreme treasure is very high. Heavenly Sword Marquis, can you use all of the power of the map now? Heaven-cleaving alliance master said. Of course I can't use all of its power, but only a part of its power is enough to suppress a primary ruler like Pupil Master and make him unable to escape, Jian Wushuang said. It's enough that he can do that. Heaven-cleaving alliance master nodded. In that case, let's not delay. Temporal and I will rush to the third continent immediately. Also, send an order to Star Palace, which is exploring the third continent, and the experts of the 3 Freedom Alliances to find out the location of Pupil Master. Wait for the 3 of us to arrive. Then we'll act immediately. Okay. Jian Wushuang and Temporal Temple Master nodded one after another. After breaking the communication, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master immediately rushed to the third continent as fast as they could. Although Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master were on different continents, it only took less than a day for an expert at the ruler level to arrive at the third continent. The 3 experts at the ruler level of the divine beginning realm had already gathered. At the same time, the orders of the 3 of them had been passed down. Star Palace and the great beings from the 3 Freedom Alliances who were adventuring on the third continent began to pay attention to Pupil Master's position. Pupil Master was, after all, a true ruler, and he had the protection of the most powerful true treasure armor. He was practically able to do whatever he wanted on the third continent. Naturally, he did not have any qualms about doing things. If they wanted to find his position, it was very easy. 10 days later, in the red void space on the third continent, buzz! A war blade appeared out of thin air. This war blade was a top-tier true treasure, and it was very valuable. Naturally, it attracted many great beings to fight for it. In this fight, Blood Ancestor from the Heaven Ancestor Taoist sect, one of the 3 Freedom Alliances, was very lucky. He took the war blade. Although there were quite a few Lords of Laws rushing over, there weren't many of them, and their strength wasn't too tyrannical. Seeing that the battle saber had already fallen into the hands of the Blood Clan, they could only give up and didn't step out to snatch it. Just as the Blood Clan was about to take the battle saber and leave this piece of void space, a terrifying aura suddenly descended. The person who came was none other than the Eye Lord. Pupil Master stood in the void space and looked down at Blood Ancestor. That ruler-level aura directly pressed down on Blood Ancestor's body, and Blood Ancestor could not help but tremble. Blood Ancestor's face instantly became extremely unsightly. Lord Pupil Master, it's just an ordinary top-tier true treasure, Blood Ancestor said in a low voice. You don't have to lower your status as a ruler, do you? Cut the crap. Hand it over or you'll die. Pupil Master's eyes turned cold. Although Blood Ancestor was unwilling to give up, he did not dare to disobey Pupil Master because of his power. He took out the blade and handed it to Pupil Master. Humph! You know your place. Pupil Master sneered, put the blade into his universe ring, and left. However, he did not notice the cold and resentful eyes of the Blood Ancestor after he left. Temporal Temple Master, I've met Pupil Master. My position is... The Blood Ancestor had already sent a message to Temporal Temple Master. Pupil Master was moving forward slowly in the void. There was a hint of pride on his face. That ant just now wasn't too stupid. If he didn't hand it over or talked back to me, I would have a reason to kill him directly. Pupil Master sneered. Although he's just an ordinary Principles Master in the Divine Beginning Realm, if I can kill him, I'll be relieved. Pupil Master really wanted to kill the Blood Ancestor. It was not because the Blood Ancestor had a treasure that attracted him, nor was it because of a top-tier supreme treasure, the War Saber. The real reason was that the Blood Ancestor came from the Divine Beginning Realm and the Three Freedom Alliances. Pupil Master had also heard that Jian Wushuang was not only from Star Palace, but also had an extraordinary relationship with the Three Freedom Alliances in the Divine Beginning Realm. He had previously been angered by Jian Wushuang and had fled in a sorry state after being killed by Jian Wushuang. Of course, he had some complaints in his heart. Killing a Principles Master from the Three Freedom Alliances would not completely relieve Pupil Master's anger, but at least it would make him feel slightly better. Unfortunately, the speed at which the Blood Ancestor handed over the treasure was too fast, so he did not have the opportunity or excuse to act. He was a ruler, and it was already excessive for him to take the initiative to force a ruler of principles to hand over the treasure. If the other party had already handed over the treasure and he still killed the other party, then it would indeed be a little too much. This would also cause many rulers in this star field to dislike him. Thus, he did not act directly just now. Humph, it doesn't matter. There are so many experts from the Star Palace and the three major freedom alliances adventuring in the Red Cloud world. In the future, there will be plenty of opportunities to encounter experts from the Star Palace and the three major freedom alliances. When the time comes, we'll find an opportunity to kill a few more. Pupil Master laughed coldly. He had been adventuring in this star field for so long, and had always been free to do whatever he wanted. With his strength and life-saving trump cards, he rarely suffered defeat in this star field. However, in the fierce battle with Jian Wushuang, not only did he suffer defeat, but he also lost a lot of face. As a mighty ruler, he was killed by a Principles Master and fled in a sorry state. This made him a joke for a moment. Of course, he wanted to take revenge on Jian Wushuang. Unfortunately, Jian Wushuang was so powerful that he could not take revenge on Jian Wushuang. Humph, Blood Sword Master, I can't take revenge on you, but I can take revenge on your subordinates. What can you do to me? Pupil Master sneered in his heart. However, at this moment, a familiar aura suddenly appeared in the range of his soul power. The appearance of this aura immediately caused Pupil Master's expression to change. This aura is Blood Sword Master? Pupil Master's expression immediately became serious. Blood Sword Master actually came to the void near me. Did he just happen to pass by? Pupil Master did not doubt it at first. After all, Jian Wushuang had been adventuring in the third continent. Although the third continent was quite big, after adventuring for so many years, it was normal for them to meet each other halfway. Pupil Master's expression immediately turned grave when he discovered that Jian Wushuang had appeared within his soul perception. At the same time, the special treasure hidden in his body once again revealed an unprecedented desire. As expected, as long as Blood Sword Master appears, my treasure will be extremely restless. It seems that Blood Sword Master indeed has something that the treasure desperately desires. Unfortunately, Pupil Master's gaze darkened slightly, but he began to comfort the treasure. Don't worry, baby. I'll definitely think of a way to get the thing in Blood Sword Master's hands in the future. But for now, it's better to leave. Pupil Master shook his head. He had no intention of meeting Jian Wushuang. After all, Jian Wushuang was far stronger than him and they had long been enemies. He had been beaten up by Jian Wushuang and had to flee in a sorry state. Now that he was alone, he naturally did not dare to face Jian Wushuang again. So he could only choose to retreat. It was funny to say that a mighty ruler wanted to avoid a principal's master on his own initiative. Blood Sword Master, I'll let you be complacent for a while. I'll definitely get back at you in the future. Pupil Master clenched his hands and secretly hated Jian Wushuang. He had deliberately bypassed Jian Wushuang. However, he soon found that although he had bypassed him, Blood Sword Master had changed his direction at the same time and rushed toward him. Blood Sword Master has the strength of an advanced ruler, so his soul perception must be strong. I can sense his existence, so he should be able to sense me. Now that I've bypassed him, he's unyieldingly approaching me. Pupil Master's expression was a little ugly. As a ruler, he had already avoided a principal's master, but the principal's master did not give up and continued to rush toward him. Although he was extremely angry, Pupil Master still did not have the intention to face Jian Wushuang. He continued to change directions and increased his speed. However, when he changed directions, Jian Wushuang immediately changed directions. After he increased his speed, Jian Wushuang also increased his speed. It was obvious that he was completely focused on him. Blood Sword Master, what are you doing? In a rage, Pupil Master shouted directly through his consciousness. Pupil Master, at least we've met twice before. We can be considered acquaintances. Now that we've met for the third time on the third continent, it's a bit unreasonable for you to leave without even greeting me, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. I'm unreasonable? The corner of Pupil Master's mouth twitched slightly. I don't have any friendship with you, so there's no need for me to greet you. I'm leaving now, so don't follow me. What's the rush? Why don't we sit down and have a chat? Jian Wushuang smiled and sped up again. The faster he sped up, the more alert Pupil Master became, and his speed also began to explode. Pupil Master is really alert. Jian Wushuang could not help shaking his head. But then he felt relieved. That's right. After all, we are in the Red Cloud world. Fighting and killing are too crazy. He knows my strength well. Although he never thought that I could kill him, he knows that I can easily defeat him. It's normal that he doesn't dare to meet me. After all, he was beaten up by me last time. I don't think he would want to meet me again. Jian Wushuang smiled in his heart. Suddenly, his expression changed and he sent a voice transmission. Pupil Master, don't leave in a hurry. To be honest, I came here because I have something to ask you. What is it? Although Pupil Master replied, he did not stop. It's like this. I heard that you once obtained a special treasure by chance, and that treasure is very useful to me. That's why I wanted to talk to you, Jian Wushuang said. Special treasure? When Pupil Master heard this, his vigilance instantly soared. He did have an extremely special treasure, which was his biggest secret. In this world, no one else knew about it except himself. The reason why he had recklessly attacked some principal's masters in this territory all these years, regardless of his status, was largely because of that special treasure. Now that Jian Wushuang mentioned the special treasure, Pupil Master immediately thought of the treasure in his hand. But the question was, how did Blood Sword Master know that he had that treasure? Or was the special treasure mentioned by Blood Sword Master not that one? Blood Sword Master, I don't know what the special treasure you mentioned is, Pupil Master said directly. You don't know, Pupil Master? That's impossible. I know very well that the treasure is in your hands. Jian Wushuang pretended to be very confident. Then he said, Pupil Master, I think you should stop for now. Let's find a place to talk. Pupil Master's eyes darkened slightly. He did not dare to face Jian Wushuang directly, but what Jian Wushuang said just now made him hesitate. He was not sure if the special treasure Jian Wushuang mentioned was his treasure. If it was true, if the existence of the treasure was known by the Blood Sword Master, it would definitely be a big trouble for him once it was spread. Therefore, he also knew what the special treasure Jian Wushuang mentioned was. Okay, I agree to talk to you. As for the place, you don't have to choose. It's right here. I won't leave and you don't come closer. You and I are so far away in the void so we can communicate through consciousness, Pupil Master said seriously. Consciousness communication? Jian Wushuang smiled and said, yes. With that, Jian Wushuang stopped walking. Pupil Master's figure also stopped in the void. The two were separated by nearly 70,000 miles of void, and they were holding each other from a distance. Seeing Pupil Master's figure really stop, Jian Wushuang did not show any change on the surface, but he secretly smiled in his heart. He did not know what special treasure Pupil Master had obtained. The reason why he said that was so that Pupil Master could stop moving so that Temporal Temple Master could hide in the surrounding void space. Jian Wushuang knew very well that a primary ruler like Pupil Master, who had extraordinary strength and possessed supreme true treasure armor, must have obtained some special opportunities or fortunes. Most likely, he had also obtained some special treasures. This was very normal. Most principals masters had obtained some special treasures, not to mention a ruler. Jian Wushuang only said it was a special treasure, but he did not specify which one. Pupil Master would be even more apprehensive. He did not dare to underestimate his words. As expected, Pupil Master was fooled. He had stopped moving. Although there was still a distance of 70,000 miles between him and Jian Wushuang, this distance was nothing to him. Temporal Temple Master, Pupil Master has stopped. He is in the void where I am. You can set up now. Jian Wushuang secretly sent a message. Well, give me 10 seconds, Temporal Temple Master replied. Okay, I'll try my best to help you. Jian Wushuang nodded secretly. Blood Sword Master, what do you want to say to me? Tell me. Pupil Master stood in the void with a cold expression. He did not see anything unusual about Jian Wushuang. Deep down, although he was vigilant against Jian Wushuang, he was not afraid of him. After all, he was a ruler-level expert with the protection of the supreme true treasure armor. He might not even be afraid of a superior ruler, let alone a mere blood sword master. He was not worried that Jian Wushuang would threaten his life. He was only cautious because he was afraid that Jian Wushuang would find an opportunity to beat him up. Pupil Master, it has been 5,000 years since the Red Cloud world opened. You have been exploring the third continent and searching for true treasures for the past 5,000 years. You must have obtained a lot of true treasures, right? Jian Wushuang asked casually. Fortunately, I've got something, but it's nothing compared to you, Blood Sword Master. After all, you've got a supreme flight-type true treasure, Pupil Master said. Haha, it's just luck, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Pupil Master's eyes darkened. He growled, Blood Sword Master, didn't you say you wanted the special treasure in my hand? I've been adventuring for so many years, and I've gotten a lot of special treasures, but I don't know which one you're talking about. There's no rush. Before we talk about the special treasure, there's something we need to settle first, Jian Wushuang said. What is it? Pupil Master looked at Jian Wushuang from a distance of 70,000 miles. Of course, it's a grudge between you and me. Jian Wushuang's voice sank. Pupil Master, as far as I know, Star Palace, including the 3 Freedom Alliances in the Divine Beginning Realm, has no grudge with you in the beginning. Even if we fought before, it was only because you didn't care about your status and attacked the Master Gucci, a subordinate of Star Palace. Yes, I did hurt you in that battle and caused you to lose a lot of face, but that was because you provoked me first. Besides, everyone in this star field knows about your character. Losing some face is nothing to you. But in the thousands of years of that battle, you repeatedly attacked our Star Palace and the 3 Freedom Alliance's principals masters in the Red Cloud world. It's obvious that you deliberately targeted my people. Pupil Master, you won't deny this, right? Jian Wushuang looked straight at Pupil Master. I thought you came here for a reason, but it turns out that you're here to punish me. Pupil Master sneered. Blood Sword Master, I admit that you're extremely talented. No one in the star area is as talented as you, and you're far stronger than me in terms of strength. Unfortunately, although you're stronger than me, you can't kill me. You know my character. Since you have offended me, I will not let you go. I have been merciful over the years. Although I forced the principal's masters of Star Palace and the 3 Freedom Alliances to hand over their supreme treasures, I didn't kill them. Speaking of which, I have already given you a lot of face. It seems that I have to thank you? Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. There's no need to thank me. Blood Sword Master, if this is the reason why you came here today, I'll tell you now. If you want me to give up and not attack the principal's masters of your Star Palace and the 3 Freedom Alliances, then it's easy. Hand over 3 pinnacle true treasures and apologize to me, and I'll give up. Pupil Master sneered. 3 pinnacle true treasures? Jian Wushuang sneered in his heart. When he had fought Pupil Master, he had forced Pupil Master to hand over 3 pinnacle true treasures to make amends, but Pupil Master refused. Now, Pupil Master was forcing him to hand over 3 pinnacle true treasures. He was really reckless. Although he was sneering in his heart, Jian Wushuang frowned on the surface and said in a low voice, Pupil Master, you are too much. Do you really want to fight to the death with me? Fight to the death? Haha. Blood Sword Master, you are the young Palace Master of Star Palace and have a close relationship with the 3 Freedom Alliances in the Divine Beginning Realm. So many people under your command need your protection, but I'm different. I'm alone. As the saying goes, bare feet are not afraid of wearing shoes. You can't kill me, so what right do you have to fight to the death with me? Pupil Master sneered. Very good. In that case, there's nothing to talk about, Jian Wushuang said. The reason why he did not continue to talk to Pupil Master was that 10 breaths had passed during their conversation. Temporal Temple Master had sent him a message saying that everything had been arranged. Humph. I never wanted to talk to you. Pupil Master's voice was cold. Blood Sword Master, you said that you knew that I had an extremely special treasure and wanted to discuss it with me. Now it seems that you're just lying to me. In that case, I don't have time to chat with you. Goodbye. After saying that, Pupil Master turned around and was about to leave. You want to leave? Can you leave? Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. A pair of huge black wings suddenly spread out behind him. Whoosh! The first layer of power of the celestial light wings was activated instantly. Jian Wushuang turned into a black thunderbolt and streaked across the void. Is that the strongest flight type true treasure? Pupil Master's expression changed the moment he saw the black wings spread out. Then he saw the black thunderbolt that Jian Wushuang had transformed into. So fast. It's too fast. A hint of shock appeared on Pupil Master's face. Jian Wushuang's speed was indeed too fast, so fast that he was shocked. After all, he was a very strong primary ruler, so his speed was not weak. In addition, he had a life-saving secret skill. When he used it, his speed could even rival that of a superior ruler in a short time. But now, Pupil Master found that Jian Wushuang's speed was even faster than that of a superior ruler. Even if he used his life-saving secret skill, his speed was still no match for Jian Wushuang's. This made him give up the idea of using his life-saving secret skill to escape. Whoosh! With the help of the celestial light wings, Jian Wushuang crossed 70,000 miles in an instant and appeared in front of Pupil Master. Pupil Master was displeased to see Jian Wushuang appear in front of him from 70,000 miles away in an instant, especially the huge black wings on his back. His speed after using the strongest flight type true treasure is really terrifying. I wonder where Blood Sword Master got such a treasure. Pupil Master clenched his hands. A supreme flight type true treasure at this level would be coveted by even a top-tier master, and a low-level master like him could only sigh in admiration. However, a supreme flight type true treasure like this had actually been obtained by a principal's master like Blood Sword Master. Of course, Pupil Master would be jealous. He was extremely jealous. Unfortunately, jealousy was jealousy. He also knew that he could not fight for the supreme flight type true treasure from Jian Wushuang now. Not to mention him, even an ordinary top-tier ruler would not be able to do so. Pupil Master, the matter has not been resolved. Where do you plan to go in such a hurry? The black wings on Jian Wushuang's back emitted a terrifying dark light. His face was cold as he stared at Pupil Master, who was right in front of him. Pupil Master's pupils constricted. Previously, Blood Sword Master was stronger than me, but once I used my life-saving secret skill, I could easily escape. But now, Blood Sword Master has obtained a Supreme Flight-type True Treasure and is faster than ordinary Supreme Masters. It's impossible for me to escape with my life-saving secret skill, however. Although I'm no match for him, it's impossible for him to kill me. The Pupil Master was still very confident in his life-saving methods. However, at this moment, the Pupil Master's expression suddenly changed. He had already sensed an unusual fluctuation from the surrounding temporal. This is temporal imprisonment? No, it's not that simple. The Pupil Master's expression finally changed. Temporal imprisonment, including many unique temporal methods, was usually used to imitate the escape of others. But now, the surrounding temporal had been secretly set up by someone, so the opponent's target, Blood Sword Master. Why did you let someone imprison the surrounding temporal? Pupil Master shouted coldly. Oh, you finally noticed it? But it's over. Jian Wushuang smiled and waved his hand. A golden light instantly rushed out and merged into the void above. Rumble. The world suddenly shook, and then an ancient and majestic aura slowly descended. The sky above, which had been rolling with red clouds, suddenly split open, and a brand new world slowly appeared in front of the world. This world was beautiful and magnificent, like a fairyland in a painting. In fact, this world was originally a scroll world. Mountain River Map, 9 Dragons Heaven-Killing Array, open. Boom! The heaven and earth suddenly trembled. In the painting scroll world above, the 9 huge continents in the painting scroll world suddenly erupted with dazzling golden light. A total of 9 dragon spirit golden lights burst out from the 9 regions, shooting toward 9 different directions in the void below. In the blink of an eye, a huge golden dragon spirit magic array was formed. The Mountain River Map was the most powerful suppressing treasure. The 9 dragon heaven-killing magic array was the most powerful killing move in the Mountain River Map. This killing move could suppress heaven and earth, suppress powerful enemies, and suppress everything. Now, under Jian Wushuang's guidance, the 9 dragon heaven-killing magic array created by the 9 dragon spirits was suppressing the void where Jian Wushuang was. The area around the void was hundreds of thousands of miles wide, and it was all under the suppression of the formation. Just like the Supreme Suppression type Supreme Treasure that Tyrant Axe had taken out to suppress the surrounding void, Jian Wushuang could not leave directly. After the 9 dragon heaven-killing formation suppressed the surrounding void, Pupil Master naturally could not leave the void in a short time, unless he could break the 9 dragon heaven-killing formation by force, or if he had a special temporal true treasure, he could travel freely in the red cloud world. Unfortunately, Jian Wushuang had made 2 preparations. He had asked Temporal Temple Master to set up a temporal technique in the surroundings. Even if Pupil Master had a special temporal true treasure, he could not leave directly. Therefore, he had only one method left, which was to break the 9 dragon heaven-killing formation by force. However, the 9 dragon heaven-killing formation was activated by Jian Wushuang's divine power, which was comparable to that of a senior ruler. It even contained a trace of the aura of a universe formation. Even a superior ruler would not be able to break it in a short time, let alone a mere junior ruler like Pupil Master. The 9 dragon heaven-killing formation and the temporal technique of Temporal Temple Master have been set up. Pupil Master will not be able to escape from this void for a short time. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining with a bright light. He had calmed down. Compared to Jian Wushuang, Pupil Master was a little flustered. A suppression-type true treasure? Judging from its aura, it seems to be stronger than an ordinary pinnacle suppression-type true treasure. Moreover, it has secretly set up a temporal technique. Could it be that Blood Sword Master's purpose is? A hint of shock flashed in Pupil Master's eyes. He stared at Jian Wushuang. In such a situation, it would be foolish if he could not figure out Jian Wushuang's real intention. Such a setup clearly showed that Jian Wushuang's purpose was not to solve the problem verbally, but to kill him. Blood Sword Master, how dare you try to kill me? Pupil Master was shocked and furious. However, his anger only lasted for a moment before he burst into laughter. Ha ha! Blood Sword Master, you really dare to try? How dare you, a mere principles master, try to kill me? What a joke! What a joke! I am a master with the supreme true treasure armor. Even a top-tier master might not be able to kill me. Who do you think you are? Blood Sword Master. Jian Wushuang could not be bothered to waste his breath on Pupil Master. His eyes were filled with killing intent. The moment the Nine-Dragon Heaven-Cleaving formation was set up, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master, who had been hiding in the void, appeared and rushed toward Jian Wushuang. You're not the only one. Do you have any helpers? Pupil Master sensed the auras of the two masters at once. One of them is Temporal Temple Master, and the other should be Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master. Humph, a junior master who specializes in temporal techniques, a senior master, and you, Blood Sword Master. Do the three of them want to keep me here? Pupil Master curled his lips slightly. He did not cause the two masters to show any fear. There was nothing to be afraid of. As a mighty ruler, he had the protection of the supreme treasure armor, and his life-saving ability was not weak. He was confident that he could protect himself even against a superior ruler. Now, although he had fallen into the trap set by Jian Wushuang and the other two, it was almost impossible for Jian Wushuang and the other two to kill him. At least that was what Pupil Master thought. He is now completely trapped in the void and cannot leave for a short time. However, there are many experts in the Red Cloud world, so someone must have noticed the movement here. Therefore, we should kill Pupil Master as soon as possible. Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master said in a low voice. Okay, let's do it. Jian Wushuang did not waste any more time. With the Netherworld Divine Sword in hand, his power burst out to the maximum. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang pointed his sword out, and in an instant, countless sword shadows lit up in the void. These sword shadows were densely packed, and each of them exuded a heart-palpitating aura. Among the countless sword shadows, one was the most dazzling and the most terrifying. The sword shadow was also magnified in the pupil of the Pupil Master. The Pupil Master knew that he was no match for Jian Wushuang. However, under such circumstances, he had no choice but to retreat. He saw the red long staff emitting a destructive aura appear in his hand. The red long staff suddenly extended out, then it furiously smashed toward the most dazzling sword light. Bang! The two collided, and the power of the sword shadow was obviously far greater than Pupil Master's long staff. Pupil Master's red long staff was slightly changed by the attack, and his entire body staggered backward. At this time, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master appeared in the void. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master held a 3-meter-long cyan-long saber, which was covered with a layer of dense cyan-purple energy. It followed the cyan battle saber of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master. Hua! The heaven and earth seemed to have been split apart by this blade. The leader of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was called Heaven-Cleaving. His blade technique was as if it could split the heaven and earth. It was extremely tyrannical and terrifying. Its power was naturally also shockingly strong. The Pupil Master had just stabilized his body when the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master's blade light that seemed to split the heaven and earth ferociously slashed toward him. The Pupil Master could only barely swing the red long staff in his hand to block. However, Pupil Master let out a muffled groan after the collision. What powerful power! It has been many years since this Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master has moved around this star field. Previously, it was said that his strength was only at the threshold of Advanced Ruler Realm. But now, just the power of this saber strike is probably very powerful even among advanced rulers, Pupil Master thought. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master had been in the fourth heaven of the Divine Beginning Realm, so he had not been in this star field for a long time. Since he had not been out, no one knew how strong he was. But after so many years, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master's strength had improved, so it was reasonable. A Blood Sword Master could easily defeat me, and now there is a Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master? Pupil Master's face was unsightly. He only had the battle strength of a primary ruler. Facing two experts of the Advanced Ruler Realm at the same time, Jian Wushuang's battle strength was definitely the best among the advanced rulers. When the two of them worked together, Pupil Master could not deal with them at all. He was completely crushed and trampled by the two of them. He had almost no ability to resist. However, although Pupil Master was crushed and trampled, he had the supreme true treasure armor to protect his body. The power of Jian Wushuang and Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master was mostly blocked by his supreme true treasure armor. Only a small part of the power actually affected his divine body, and the damage it caused was negligible. Haha! Blood Sword Master and the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master. I've said that the two of you can't kill me alone. Pupil Master laughed wildly. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master's face darkened. The protective ability of the supreme true treasure armor is really amazing. You and I have suppressed him for so long, and several of our attacks hit him head-on. However, the damage caused to him is still not great, and his divine power is still very abundant. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. He could also see that, when he first met Pupil Master, he had unleashed his strongest strength and used his strongest sword technique, which contained the aura of the universe origin. But it had only barely caused Pupil Master to vomit blood. However, it still did not consume much of his divine power. Now, although he and Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master were working together, he did not use all of his strength, and the threat that Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master posed to Pupil Master was very limited. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you should have a way, right? The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master looked at Jian Wushuang. Yes, watch me. Jian Wushuang nodded and waved his hand. Magic Sand Realm, come out. Whoosh! A large amount of black quicksand swept out and instantly covered the entire world, turning it into a sea of black magic sand. Pupil Master, who was in the middle of the sea of black magic sand, was naturally suppressed by the Magic Sand Realm. Is it another pinnacle domain type supreme treasure? Pupil Master's face darkened, not surprised. When he first met Jian Wushuang had used the Magic Sand Realm to suppress him. He did not care. Even if he was suppressed by the realm, the effect was limited. At most, it would weaken his strength slightly. However, after the Magic Sand Realm appeared and covered the entire world, Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold again. Mystic Light Realm. The secret patterns on the body of the wings lit up instantly. In an instant, a large amount of pitch-black flowing light burst out from the wings. Like the Magic Sand Realm, the pitch-black flowing light swept out and covered tens of thousands of miles in the blink of an eye. After these black streamers appeared, they did not have any friction or impulse with the Magic Sand Realm. Instead, they blended perfectly with each other. The black magic sand was surrounded by a large number of black streamers, filling the heaven and earth. The Mystic Light Realm and the Magic Sand Realm were a perfect combination. Realm suppress! Jian Wushuang shouted in a low voice. In an instant, boom, 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 the world trembled. The terrifying power of the realm burst out. The black sand surrounded by flowing light attacked everything crazily, as if it could easily kill the world. Pupil Master, who was at the core of the realm, was only suppressed by the Magic Sand Realm at first and did not take it to heart. But now, faced with the pressure of the new realm formed by the combination of the Mystic Light Realm and the Magic Sand Realm, instantly, the Pupil Master staggered, and he almost lost his balance. He could only feel an enormous amount of power pressing down on his body, causing him, as a ruler, to find it hard to breathe. How is this possible? How can this domain be so powerful? Pupil Master's expression changed drastically. He did not care too much about the domain suppression of a pinnacle domain-type true treasure. However, now that Mystic Light Realm and Magic Sand Realm were combined, the domain suppression effect was obviously much stronger than that of a normal pinnacle domain-type true treasure. The suppression brought on by the domain was not much weaker than that of a pinnacle domain-type true treasure. Pupil Master's entire body was greatly restricted, and his power was greatly reduced. Furthermore, the suppression brought on by the domain was not only affecting his power, but his reaction speed and other aspects were also reduced by a level. However, no matter how strong the suppression of the realm was, it did not affect his protective ability. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang moved. Swish! A phantom-like flowing light flashed. Before Pupil Master could react, Jian Wushuang still appeared by his side. At the same time, the Netherworld Divine Sword had already swept toward him. What? Pupil Master was shocked. It was too fast. Pupil Master did not manage to catch Jian Wushuang's figure at all. The cold netherworld divine sword had already struck his body. Clang! The sound of metal colliding rang out, and Pupil Master's body trembled slightly. This was a direct attack on his divine body. Pupil Master did not use any means or attack to block it. Even though he had the supreme true treasure armor to block 99% of the attack's power, however, the last part of the power still shook his divine body, causing a trace of blood to flow from the corner of his mouth. Blood Sword Master is much stronger than Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master. If I can't block his swordsmanship in time and it hits me directly, I'll still be injured. Pupil Master's face darkened slightly. He understood that although his body protection ability was great, he could not completely ignore Jian Wushuang's attack. At the very least, if he did not defend against Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship and relied solely on his divine body, he would still be injured even with the protection of the supreme true treasure armor. Although the injury was very light, he would be more and more seriously injured and consume more and more divine power. Sure enough, even if I don't have time to use my strongest swordsmanship, I can still hurt him with my full strength, even if I use my swordsmanship casually. Jian Wushuang also noticed this. He could not help laughing coldly in his heart. He did not want to kill Pupil Master quickly. As long as he could hurt him, it was enough. Then, swish, 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 swish. Streams of ghostly flowing light suddenly began to flicker and change in the void. It was too fast and too strange. Every time it flickered, it could easily appear in the void 300 meters away, as if it was moving in close proximity. Pupil Master had released his soul power to the maximum, but he found that his soul power could not keep up with Jian Wushuang's transformation. This, Pupil Master's eyes widened in shock. However, Jian Wushuang had already attacked again and again. Every time he attacked, he relied on the mystic light phantom to move close to him and constantly change his position, so Pupil Master could not react in time. Although each sword skill he displayed was not his strongest, it was extremely fast and had a strong piercing force. Pupil Master could not defend in time. Clang, 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 clang. One after another, the sound of metal colliding could be heard. Pupil Master had become a living target, surrounded by Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship that came from all directions. The sword lights were almost unimpeded as they struck Pupil Master head-on. In a short while, Pupil Master had withstood Jian Wushuang's dozens of sword lights. It's too terrifying. His movement technique is too terrifying. I can't block it. I have no time to use my staff technique to block it. Pupil Master was shocked. At first, he was not anxious at all. He thought that Jian Wushuang would not be able to kill him. Even if he joined hands with the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, he would at most be able to trample him. But now, under the pressure of the terrifying domain, Jian Wushuang's terrifying movement technique left him with no choice but to stare blankly at Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship. He was like a living target. No matter how Jian Wushuang attacked, he had no room to resist or resist. Under such crazy attacks, even with the protection of the supreme treasure armor, each of Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship could only cause limited damage to his divine body. Naturally, he did not care about one or two attacks. However, after dozens or even dozens of such attacks, the damage to his divine body would increase, and his divine power would be slowly consumed. The most terrifying thing was that he was completely helpless against Jian Wushuang's attack. He had tried his best to block Jian Wushuang's attack, but it was useless. He did not even touch the corner of Jian Wushuang's clothes. He could not react to Jian Wushuang's attack at all. How could this be? How could the Blood Sword Master have such incredible movement skills? We're in big trouble. Pupil Master finally became anxious. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and the Temporal Temple Master's eyes lit up when they saw this scene. I didn't expect my little friend, the Heavenly Marquis, to have mastered such a terrifying movement technique. No wonder he has such a high chance of killing Pupil Master. The Temporal Temple Master was excited. This movement technique changes time and time again, just like temporal teleportation. Moreover, it changes directions in an instant and appears in every corner. Such a movement technique is indeed terrifying. Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master was also secretly amazed. As far as I know, Heavenly Sword Marquis has never mastered such a movement technique before. Could it be because of the strongest flight type true treasure? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master could not help but look at the pair of black wings on Jian Wushuang's back. At this moment, Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master had completely stopped and allowed Jian Wushuang to deal with Pupil Master. Under the watchful eyes of Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master, Pupil Master was completely unable to withstand Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship. His divine body was damaged time and time again, and his divine power was constantly being depleted. Before long, Pupil Master's divine power had been depleted by more than 10%. Naturally, his aura had weakened a lot. There's hope. If this continues, Pupil Master's divine power will be exhausted in at most 15 minutes. By then, he'll definitely die. The eyes of the Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master lit up. At this moment, they indeed saw hope in Jian Wushuang to kill Pupil Master. Pupil Master was very clear about the current situation. At the same time, he knew that if this continued, he would really be in danger. This void has been completely suppressed. I have no way to escape. In a head-on battle, this Blood Sword Master is far stronger than me. Especially when he uses that strange movement technique, I have no way to resist. My divine power is being consumed too quickly. No, I can't continue like this. Pupil Master's gaze was gloomy. He understood that if this continued, when his divine power was completely exhausted, he would definitely die. There's no other way. I can only use that treasure. Pupil Master made up his mind. His eyes were filled with shocking killing intent. Blood Sword Master, you forced me to do this. With a low shout, Pupil Master flipped his hand and took out an item. What did he take out? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master, who were standing in the surrounding void, immediately looked at him. Is that a gourd? Jian Wushuang also saw what Pupil Master took out. It was a blood-red gourd that was crystal clear. At first glance, this blood-red gourd was no different from an ordinary gourd. Jian Wushuang could not immediately sense anything special from it. However, when Pupil Master looked at the blood-red gourd in his hand, his eyes turned scarlet. It was a feeling of fanaticism and madness. It was as if what he was holding in his hand was not a gourd, but an ultimate treasure that could shake heaven and earth. It was enough to make Pupil Master disregard everything. Pupil Master is so conspicuous that he was almost forced into a desperate situation by me. At this time, he took out this gourd. What exactly is in the gourd? Jian Wushuang frowned. Ha! Baby, my baby, wake up. Pupil Master let out a cold laugh, which echoed in the surrounding void. At the same time, he opened the stopper of the blood-red gourd. Suddenly, a suffocating and terrifying power suddenly burst out of the blood-red gourd. It was a pitch-black and boundless flame, which was cold enough to make rulers tremble. It erupted from the blood-red gourd. In an instant, the void of the red cloud world seemed to be unable to withstand the power of this black flame, and it actually collapsed. Soon after, a large amount of black flame wildly danced, and it actually surged toward Pupil Master's body. In the blink of an eye, Pupil Master's entire body was enveloped by that monstrous black flame, and his body expanded by a full circle. Buzz! A suffocating and terrifying aura spread out from Pupil Master's body, directly suppressing the entire scene. The impact of this terrifying aura actually greatly affected the magic sand mystic light realm that had been filling the surroundings, greatly reducing the suppression effect of the domain. This is... Jian Wushuang looked at Pupil Master in surprise. Not only him, but also the Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master were also shocked. They could not believe that the person standing in front of them was Pupil Master. Although his body had completely changed, his aura had undergone a tremendous change. Originally, Pupil Master was only a primary ruler, although he was slightly stronger. His divine power aura was at most close to that of a high ruler. But now, under the cover of the black flames, This pupil master's divine power aura had increased by several times. That terrifying and monstrous aura was definitely much stronger than that of an ordinary high ruler. Even when compared to a peak ruler, the difference did not seem to be too great. Not only his divine power aura, even the pupil master's soul origin aura seemed to have undergone some slight changes at this moment. Blood Sword Master. A low roar came out of pupil master's mouth. Blue veins popped up on his face, and his face was completely distorted. His eyes were filled with unprecedented anger. You're just a principles master, but you forced me to use my treasure and summon the devil flame body. Even if I die, I should be proud. Devil flame body? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Go to hell. A fierce light flashed in pupil master's eyes, and the red long staff in his hand was instantly thrown out in anger. Boom! The air was forcefully torn apart. The red long staff, which was emitting an endless destructive aura, burst out with a speed and power that was several times faster than before. In a flash, it appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was secretly shocked. He could use the mystic light phantom to resist, but on second thought, he chose to swing the netherworld divine sword to meet it directly. Starfire Burning Sun. Whoosh! An extremely violent sword light fiercely slashed out and directly collided with the red longstaff shadow. With this collision, Jian Wushuang immediately sensed the extremely powerful power from the netherworld divine sword. Under the impact of this power, he staggered back a few steps. Of course, Pupil Master also retreated, but he only retreated 3 steps before he stopped again. This? Jian Wushuang was a little confused. Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master were also shocked. Pupil Master was only a primary ruler. 5,000 years ago, when Jian Wushuang first met Pupil Master, he could easily defeat him. The second time they met was during the battle for the Celestial Lightwings. Jian Wushuang could easily defeat him with the help of Ruler Tyrant X. In terms of strength, Jian Wushuang was much stronger than Pupil Master. Everyone knew this. But now, Jian Wushuang had a head-on collision with Pupil Master, but Pupil Master had the slight advantage. The moment Pupil Master used the Devil Flame body, his strength had increased to such an extent. He seems to have grasped more power than me. There's no need to fight him head-on. Although Jian Wushuang was shocked by Pupil Master's sudden increase in strength, he was still calm. He quickly attacked again. This time, he did not choose to fight the Pupil Master head-on. Instead, he used the Mystic Light Phantom and used his movement skills to move around and attack the surroundings. The strength of the Pupil Master, who was possessed by the Devil Flame body, had increased dramatically. He was almost a superior ruler. However, even though his strength had greatly increased, he was still a living target in front of Jian Wushuang's terrifying movement skills. Swish! 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 Streams of cold sword light mercilessly bombarded Pupil Master's body. Just like before, Pupil Master was completely unable to withstand Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship. However, with the Devil Flame body, the layer of black flames on the surface of his body also contained an extremely powerful protective effect. Any attack from Jian Wushuang would be weakened by the layer of black flames, and the damage to the divine body of the Pupil Master would be even less. Haha! Blood Sword Master, do you only dare to fight me with your movement skills? You're just like a fly, flying around without any interest. If you have the ability, fight me head-on. Pupil Master laughed. However, as he laughed, his face became more and more ferocious and twisted. Jian Wushuang ignored him and continued to attack. The divine body of the Pupil Master would still be damaged and his divine power would still be consumed. However, the rate of consumption was much slower than before. It's too slow. At this rate, it will take at least 4 hours for his divine power to be completely consumed. Jian Wushuang frowned. Haha! Blood Sword Master, aren't you strong? But your swordsmanship is just scratching my itch. You want to kill me with such strength? What a joke! Pupil Master continued to sneer. Pupil Master, you're just borrowing a trump card. Even if you have a trump card, you're still a living target in front of me. You'll only be trampled by me. What's there to be proud of? Jian Wushuang sneered at the same time. Besides, even if you use the devil flame body to make it much more difficult for me to kill you, it'll only take me a little more time. Since you're trapped in this void, there's no way for you to escape. Let's waste our time. I won't be able to kill you in a short time, but I don't believe you can hold on for another 4 or 2 hours. 1 or 2 hours? Pupil Master's gaze sank, following which he smiled and said, Blood Sword Master, do you think that this seat is easy to fool? You are currently controlling 2 domain-type techniques at the same time, as well as that suppression-type magic array. Furthermore, you have been using such a terrifying movement technique to execute sword techniques to kill me time and time again. Although my divine power is indeed being depleted after each attack, the consumption of your divine power is even greater. You are only a principles master. Even if your divine power is greater than that of an ordinary principles master, how vast can it be? Can you hold on for 4 hours? What Pupil Master said was the truth. Jian Wushuang was using too many techniques. He was controlling the mountain river map to use the 9 dragons heaven-killing formation, the mystic light realm and the magic sand realm at the same time. He was also using the mystic light phantom formation in the celestial light wings to move closer and closer. He kept looking for opportunities to hurt Pupil Master. All of these methods required a vast amount of divine power. Even a real ruler would not be able to hold on for long with so many powerful methods, let alone a principles master. His divine power would be completely exhausted. However, Pupil Master did not know that Jian Wushuang was a special life form. Moreover, he was a perfect special life form. When his life level reached the perfect stage, his divine power was far more abundant than that of a ruler. It was impossible for other principles masters and rulers to last for 4 hours with so many techniques. However, Jian Wushuang could definitely hold on. Jian Wushuang had even calculated that if he continued to use up his divine power at this rate, he would at most use up 30% of his divine power after 4 hours. In that case, what was there to worry about? Pupil Master, let's see who can last until the end. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly and sped up his attack. Humph! Pupil Master snorted and tried to block Jian Wushuang's attack. He also tried to counterattack. However, in the face of Jian Wushuang's movement skills, it was all in vain. An hour passed quickly. During this hour, Jian Wushuang had never stopped attacking Pupil Master. During this time, he had used countless sword skills to attack Pupil Master head-on. However, even after such a fierce storm of attacks, Pupil Master's divine power had only been used up by 40%. However, the consumption of 40% of his divine power caused Pupil Master's expression to change again. Blood Sword Master used so many techniques at the same time and kept attacking me like a storm. Logically speaking, his divine power should have been used up long ago. However, judging from his current appearance, his divine power is still very abundant. While Pupil Master was enduring Jian Wushuang's sword skill attack, he was also observing Jian Wushuang. He wanted to wait for Jian Wushuang's divine power to be used up, but after waiting for an hour, Jian Wushuang's divine power was still abundant, and the storm-like attack did not stop. Monster, Blood Sword Master is really a monster. Pupil Master cursed in his heart, but he still did not show any fear. Blood Sword Master, it seems that I underestimated you. Your divine power is abundant, and I'm afraid I can't compete with you in terms of consumption. But even so, you're still not good enough to kill me. Pupil Master sneered. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. How could Pupil Master be so confident at this critical moment? Could it be that he still had other trump cards that he had not used? But Pupil Master's trump cards were already terrifying enough. It was unlikely that he would use other trump cards. If he did not have other trump cards, how could Pupil Master be confident that he could survive? Jian Wushuang was puzzled. But at this moment, Temporal Temple Master, who was standing in the void, suddenly changed his expression. He quickly said, "My young friend, a principles master of the Temporal Temple just reported that he saw Ruler Hong thousands of miles away from us. Ruler Hong was very fast and travel-worn. It seems that he is coming toward us." What? Jian Wushuang and the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master's expressions changed. Ruler Hong? He was rushing toward them? Ha ha! Is he finally coming? After hearing the words of the Temporal Temple Master, Pupil Master burst into laughter. Blood Sword Master, I have to say that the means you have set up this time are indeed very impressive. You immediately sealed my chance of escape. Your strength and the means you have prepared are even more powerful. If I didn't have a treasure to protect my body, I might have been killed by you. But unfortunately, no matter how many plans you made a mistake. I wasn't killed by you in a short period of time, and when you attacked me, you must have discovered many things in the surrounding void space. This news naturally spread within the Red Cloud world, and it naturally reached Ruler Hong's ears. Ruler Hong, although he doesn't have a very deep friendship with me, he once owed me a favor by chance. I still have his transmission token in my hand. Even though I can't send a message because you've completely sealed off Temporal, Ruler Hong knows that my life is in danger, so he will still come to save me. We're in big trouble. Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master's faces turned extremely ugly. Ruler Hong was an extremely ancient and powerful ruler. In terms of combat strength, although he had not reached the level of a superior ruler, he was definitely the strongest among the advanced rulers. The most important thing was that Ruler Hong was extremely difficult to deal with. Like Jian Wushuang, Ruler Hong's body protection ability was extremely strong. However, Jian Wushuang's body protection ability was famous because of his body protection swordsmanship. Once the earth protection was activated, even a superior ruler would not be able to break it. And Ruler Hong's body protection ability relied on his divine body. Ruler Hong was a member of the Golden Stone race, which was extremely rare among the special races. The Golden Stone race was not good at attacking, but their godly bodies were innately powerful. After reaching the level of a senior ruler, Ruler Hong's divine body was definitely much stronger than that of many other top-tier rulers. Moreover, he had once obtained an extremely powerful divine body secret technique from the 3 great battlefields. By chance, he had obtained an extremely powerful divine body secret technique, which had made his divine body even more terrifying. Although he did not have a supreme true treasure armor to protect his body, it was only a pinnacle true treasure armor, but it was still enough to give many top rulers a headache. He had once fought with 2 top rulers, but the 2 top rulers could not do anything to him. Such a powerful ruler who could protect his body was about to defend the battlefield, and he was the Pupil Master's helper? This was not good news for Jian Wushuang and the others. With the speed of Ruler Hong, we should be able to cover an area of 10,000 kilometers in a short time. With the help of Ruler Hong, we won't have a chance to kill Pupil Master, Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master said in a low voice. Jian Wushuang's eyes darkened. Jian Wushuang had not expected that Ruler Hong would come. Emperor Hong's reputation in this star field was not good. He had offended many experts and forces, and he had never heard of any close friends. However, he did not expect Emperor Hong to owe him a favor. Moreover, Emperor Hong happened to be adventuring in the 3rd continent, so he was able to come in such a short time. What should we do? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master frowned. My young friend, why don't we leave now? We'll think of another way next time, Temporal Temple Master said. If they left now, both Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master would be very unwilling. However, they could not do anything about it. They did not know where Ruler Hong had obtained such a powerful trump card, which was enough to last him for a long time. Judging from the current situation, before Jian Wushuang killed Pupil Master, Ruler Hong must have arrived long ago. Ha! Blood Sword Master, aren't you going to give up? Pupil Master's body was burning with flames, but his eyes were filled with unprecedented madness. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. He stared at Pupil Master and felt his aura. It was not easy to force Pupil Master to this point. If I give up now, he will be extremely vigilant next time. It will be difficult to find such a good opportunity to kill him in the future. Jian Wushuang muttered. The next moment, he made a decision. It seems that I can only use that move. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a fierce light as he followed his thoughts. Buzz! The void shook slightly. A large amount of black air flow suddenly swept up and covered the surrounding void in the blink of an eye. The sky was dark. Without the blood clouds above and without the light, The entire world fell into absolute darkness. Silence. The entire world was silent. This is. Pupil Master was still standing in front of the void, but at this moment he was looking around in shock. Not only him, but also the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and the Temporal Temple Master in the void were stunned. They did not know what had happened, but as rulers, they could clearly sense that the world was very different from before. They even felt that they were no longer in the world or even the universe. That's the aura of the universal principles. This is a technique that contains the universal principles? Oh my God! Both Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master were stunned. Although they were on the same side as Jian Wushuang, their relationship with Jian Wushuang was needless to say. However, they did not know much about some of Jian Wushuang's trump cards. For example, they did not know about Jian Wushuang's current move. Now that they saw Jian Wushuang's move, they were shocked by the extremely rich universal principles that filled the surrounding area. Innate divine power, primal universe. Jian Wushuang stood in the center of the darkness and completely merged with the surrounding darkness. There was a hint of excitement on his face. Primal universe. It was an innate divine power that was given to him by the arrival of the universe principles. This move was Jian Wushuang's strongest trump card. Ever since he obtained this innate divine power, he had never really used it. He did not even have the chance to experience the power of the primal universe, let alone use it on others. Until now, Jian Wushuang had only used this move to kill Pupil Master. Once the original universe appeared, the vast void covered by the black airflow was completely under Jian Wushuang's control. Jian Wushuang already had a sense of absolute control. This feeling of control was like a thought from him. If there were any principles masters in the original universe, he could annihilate them instantly, leaving nothing behind. At the same time, he had merged with the original universe, and his overall strength had reached a new level. This feeling is so powerful. It's as if I can do anything. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, feeling extremely excited. However, he did not forget what he should do now. 10 breaths. The original universe only lasts for 10 breaths. I must kill him within 10 breaths. Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with killing intent. As soon as he performed the Mystic Light Phantom Movement technique, he appeared beside Pupil Master like a ghost. Previously, Pupil Master was helpless against Jian Wushuang's movement technique when he was not in the original universe. Now, there was no room for him to resist. Fall to the underworld. Jian Wushuang struck out with his sword. It was cold and merciless, as if it could tear everything in front of it apart. Jian Wushuang's most powerful strike, the sword light, contained a trace of the aura of universe principles. With the support of the primitive universe, the cold and merciless sword light struck Pupil Master directly. Walala! The terrifying sword light, which could tear everything apart, struck Pupil Master's Supreme True Treasure Armor. Even the Supreme True Treasure Armor left a deep white mark under the sword light. At the same time, a strong power passed through the Supreme True Treasure Armor and struck Pupil Master's divine body. What? Pupil Master stared at Jian Wushuang. He was shocked to find that Jian Wushuang's sword had directly destroyed 3% of his divine power. After he summoned the Devil Flame, his protective ability had greatly increased. Previously, Jian Wushuang had used so many sword skills, but each sword skill had consumed less than 1,000th of his divine power. Because of this, he had only consumed 40% of his divine power in the past hour. But now, Jian Wushuang had destroyed 3% of his divine power with one sword move. In other words, the power of Jian Wushuang's sword light was dozens of times stronger than before. The battle strength of a superior ruler. Only a superior ruler is qualified to use an attack, and it's a superior ruler who is good at killing. Pupil Master was completely panicking. He had the Supreme True Treasure Armor and the Devil Flame body. Even if he encountered an ordinary superior ruler, he would not be too afraid. Although Jian Wushuang did not have the battle strength of a superior ruler, his movement skills were too excessive. He could not defend against the sword skills that he used to constantly move close to him, so he could only become a live target. Therefore, The threat that Jian Wushuang posed to him before was slightly stronger than that of an ordinary superior ruler. However, he could still face such a threat. But now Jian Wushuang's attack power instantly increased by dozens of times, reaching the level of a superior ruler. This was definitely a demon for him. Pupil Master, die! Jian Wushuang clenched his teeth and used his mystic light phantom movement to attack at lightning speed. Strange and powerful sword lights slashed toward Pupil Master one after another. With the support of the primitive universe, the power of his swordsmanship, even if it was just an ordinary swordsmanship, had reached the level of a superior ruler. However, such a swordsmanship, Pupil Master could not even block them. He could only rely on his divine body to resist them. As a result, the sword lights bombarded him, and Pupil Master's godly power was consumed dozens of times faster than before. After all, he only had about 50% of his godly power left. No! Stop! Blood Sword Master! Stop! Pupil Master was finally anxious and terrified. He could clearly feel that his divine power was flowing at a crazy speed, but he could neither stop nor change it. However, Jian Wushuang had no intention of stopping. After 3 breaths, Pupil Master only had 30% of his divine power left. After 6 breaths, Pupil Master only had 10% of his divine power left. It was the 8th breath. Die! Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with killing intent. He slashed out with the Netherworld Divine Sword in his hand with unprecedented violence. The sword light struck the Pupil Master's divine body brutally. No! The Pupil Master let out a hysterical roar. His eyes were wide open, full of fear and despair. This sword attack destroyed the last part of his divine power, and his voice was immediately cut off. Phew! Is he finally dead? Seeing Pupil Master's voice cut off, Jian Wushuang let out a sigh of relief. He had to admit that Pupil Master was indeed very difficult to deal with. He had used all his means to kill him. After such a long battle, especially when he had just activated the original universe, he had expended a lot of divine power. Of course, although he had consumed a lot of divine power, his combat strength was still at its peak. Let's go. With a thought, Jian Wushuang restrained the surrounding original universe. The dark and boundless original universe quickly disappeared and returned to its original appearance. Then, Jian Wushuang came to the void where the Pupil Master had died. There was a red long rod, armor, and an interspatial ring floating there. These were all left by the Pupil Master. As for his divine body, it naturally collapsed with his death. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and put all the things left by the Pupil Master into his interspatial ring. He was deep in thought. Pupil Master is not very strong and is only a primary ruler, but his life-saving ability is amazing. He also has a lot of trump cards, especially the Devil Flame Body, which he activated at the end. It seems that he has had a lot of opportunities in the 3 battlefields. I'll check his interspatial ring later. Jian Wushuang had killed a primary ruler before. The 3 primary rulers of Devil Cloudstar had died at his hands. Jian Wushuang had checked their interspatial rings, but he did not find anything. The 3 rulers of Devil Cloudstar were not weak, but their trump cards seemed to be ordinary. However, Pupil Master's life-saving ability and trump cards were extraordinary. Heavenly Sword Marquis. My young friend, Heavenly Marquis. Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master were already walking toward Jian Wushuang. Amazing! As soon as Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master came to Jian Wushuang, he could not help but exclaim in admiration, "What kind of skill did you just use to increase your strength so much?" Pupil Master still has about 50% of his divine power left, but you killed him in such a short time. My young friend, if I'm not mistaken, what you just used should be a unique secret skill, right? Temporal Temple Master looked over. Jian Wushuang could not help smiling when he saw their questions. To tell you the truth, after I refined the small astral world formed by the 7-star divine realm, the universe principles personally descended on me. At that time, the universe principles not only gave me a powerful willpower, but also gave me an innate divine power. What I just displayed was the innate divine power given by the universe principles. Innate divine power? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master looked at each other with a trace of panic and amazement in their eyes. No wonder it's so amazing. So it was given by the universe principles personally. Temporal Temple Master sighed softly, but there was a trace of unconcealable envy between his brows. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang smiled and said, "You don't have to be envious. Although my innate divine power is amazing, it also has some limitations. For example, it can only be used once every 12 hours, and it can only last for 10 breaths at most." 10 breaths? That's not bad. Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master smiled and said, he and the Temporal Temple Master could understand that such a powerful innate ability would be too abnormal if it didn't have any restrictions. In the void, Jian Wushuang, the Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master, and the Temporal Temple Master were chatting casually. The Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and the Temporal Temple Master were both praising Jian Wushuang's amazing innate skill. Jian Wushuang knew that the innate skill given by the universe principles was indeed terrifying. After using the primitive universe, his strength could increase to the level of a superior ruler in a short period of time. In addition, he could also use the mystic light phantom movement technique under normal circumstances. He could easily kill a superior ruler. It was because of this trump card that he dared to say that he had a 60% chance of killing Pupil Master. Ruler Hong is here. Jian Wushuang suddenly raised his head. Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master also looked toward the void not far away. There, a figure rushed over and appeared in front of them in the blink of an eye. Ruler Hong had rushed over in a hurry. He was a man of his word. In this star field, his character was well known. Even though Ruler Hong didn't like many things that the Pupil Master had done in this star field, he didn't have much of a relationship with Ruler Hong before. However, it was a fact that he owed the Pupil Master a favor. That favor was in a dangerous place in the Quicksand Demon Realm, one of the 3 battlefields. They met halfway and were both involved in a great crisis. In that crisis, Ruler Hong almost died. It was Pupil Master's help that allowed him to escape. Ruler Hong had always remembered this favor. Therefore, when he was adventuring in the 3rd continent and learned that Pupil Master was besieged by Jian Wushuang, the Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master, and the Temporal Temple Master, he rushed here as fast as he could. His purpose was to save Pupil Master and return the favor. However, when he arrived in the void, there were only Jian Wushuang and the other 2 in front of him. Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master, Temporal Temple Master, the Principal's Master with the sword on his back should be Blood Sword Master. They are all here, but what about Pupil Master? Ruler Hong narrowed his eyes and stared at the 3 in front of him. He had a bad premonition. Ruler Hong, you are here for Pupil Master, right? Jian Wushuang looked at Ruler Hong and said with a smile, "Unfortunately, you are too late. Just now, Pupil Master was killed by the 3 of us." Killed? Ruler Hong was shocked and said, "Pupil Master was killed by you? Why? Don't you believe me?" Jian Wushuang smiled and took out something. "This thing in my hand was left by Pupil Master. Ruler Hong, you must know it." Jian Wushuang took out Pupil Master's most powerful attack type true treasure, the red long stick. Seeing the red long stick, Ruler Hong's pupils constricted. He no longer had any doubts. Since Jian Wushuang had taken the supreme treasure magic weapon he had used, Pupil Master was naturally dead. As soon as I got the news that Pupil Master was killed by the 3 of you, I rushed here as fast as I could. I thought that with Pupil Master's strength and skills, he would be able to hold out for a long time before I arrived. I didn't expect that I would be late in the end. Ruler Hong sighed softly. He was also quite surprised. He knew more or less about Pupil Master's strength and methods. He had even seen him use his most powerful trump card once. He knew that even a superior master might not be able to kill Pupil Master. However, he was surprised that the 3 of them had killed Pupil Master together. "Ruler Hong, I heard that you owe Pupil Master a favor. You came here to save him. But now that Pupil Master has died in our hands, do you want to avenge him?" Jian Wushuang suddenly asked. "Revenge?" Ruler Hong shook his head, but his expression was extremely cold. "It's true that I owe Pupil Master a favor, but it doesn't mean that I have a deep friendship with him. This time, when I knew that he was in danger, I rushed here immediately. Although I didn't save him in time, I did my best to repay him. As for who killed him, it has nothing to do with me. Naturally, I can't avenge him. Ruler Hong said this with a clear conscience. He did try his best to come to the rescue as quickly as possible, but he couldn't be blamed for not being able to catch up. As for avenging Pupil Master, it was certainly impossible. Since the dust has settled, I'll stay a little longer. Farewell, the three of you. Ruler Hong cupped his hands to Jian Wushuang and the other two, then turned and left. Ruler Hong is very direct. Jian Wushuang could not help but laugh. Haha, although Ruler Hong owes Pupil Master a favor, he is a good person. Many rulers in this star field look down on Pupil Master. They think that Pupil Master doesn't care about his status at all, which is a disgrace to the rulers. I'm afraid Ruler Hong is no exception. Temporal Temple Master laughed. He came to save Pupil Master because of that favor, but in his heart, he probably doesn't think much of Pupil Master. I guess so. Jian Wushuang and Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master looked at each other and smiled. Well, Pupil Master is dead. We've achieved our goal. Let's leave this place first, Jian Wushuang said. The three of them immediately withdrew the suppression and temporal seal on the surrounding void and left. In the Red Cloud world, when Jian Wushuang, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and the Temporal Temple Master ganged up to kill Pupil Master, they caused quite a stir. Many Principles Masters had already noticed it. Because of the Nine-Dragon Heaven-Slaying formation, these Principles Masters were far away from the battlefield and could not record the scene of the battle through a mirror image. However, the battle was about to end. They could all sense it. Pupil Master died in this battle. The news spread throughout Red Cloud World and even the entire star field. Red Cloud World and countless great beings in the star field were shocked when they heard the news. What? Pupil Master is dead. How is that possible? Not only is Pupil Master a powerful low-level ruler, but he also has a supreme true treasure armor protecting him. Even a top-tier ruler might not be able to kill him, right? I know, right? But Pupil Master didn't die at the hands of a top-tier ruler. Instead, he died at the hands of Blood Sword Master, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and Temporal Temple Master. It is said that Blood Sword Master and the other two had set up a trap in advance to suppress the void space. At the same time, they had completely sealed the space and time, so Pupil Master didn't have any chance to escape. Then the three of them worked together and fought for more than an hour before they killed Pupil Master.